Happy Canada Day. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Happy to everybody that celebrates. We're halfway through 2025. You've survived. It's July.
We've technically been halfway through 2025 because isn't that June 13th or June 15th? Halfway through 2025. Am I being technical?
That's a lot
there?
of math. It's July.
6 months.
It's Bobby
in,
Bonilla
6
Day.
to go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Start of the fiscal year today.
That's a good point.
You
I
understand
guess
that?
I think I think my
Fiscal
math is
year.
wrong. I knew it was Bobby Bonilla Day. Happy Canada Day.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
their. Hey, Happer.
I know. I when I press the button. Okay, there you go. I'm sorry.
That new computer?
No,
Oh,
it needs to be.
you just pulled a Happer over there.
I did.
You
pull
crush
a Happer.
all the time
I am
for
a
that.
hypocrite. Okay, that's what I officially am.
That looks like a new computer.
It's not a new
Oh, okay.
computer. It's fancy though. Do you like there's no buttons
No, see,
here.
I don't-
There's on the bar. If you get the little bar right there, where it's
Yeah.
like did it. It's
Yeah.
like a digital bar. I never have a problem with
I like
that.
the MacBook Air.
I never have my volume on. I'm never listening to anything on my computer. Like I don't like YouTube is probably my number one used app on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever open up YouTube on my computer. I don't know what it is. There are some applications that are meant for the computer, some that are meant for the
Hmm.
phone.
Some people say that Bobby Bonilla Day is like a tired topic. I just think it's a good financial savvy move by Bonilla, who will still get paid for another 10 years.
It just reminds you what day it is. And it also reminds you the football season is nearing.
You know, a calendar does that.
Yeah, but I don't have a calendar.
How many people have a calendar?
On your phone, everybody has
No,
a
no,
calendar.
not like a
Take a
real
look. Yeah,
calendar.
Like a
with
real
pretty
calendar?
pictures.
Like a
and-
real calendar.
I don't know if you buy me a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model edition, I'd probably have a calendar.
All right, then. I had gotten Matt some
Does it-
little cat calendar.
Does the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue come with a calendar?
Well, no, but you can order the
Oh.
calendar that
It used to
has-
come with a football
you
phone.
used to be able to do
a lot
that,
of things
right?
used to come with Sports Illustrated.
It used a
like-
lot of things
like
used
weekly.
to do
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Rick Riley.
But no, I don't think anybody has a calendar. I don't know. Well, maybe like a family calendar.
Yeah,
That's like
that
a
counts.
See that?
That is like an often
Maybe an
This
advent
chair is-
calendar.
This chair is so high.
I am struggle bus this
You're
morning,
a
my
tall
friend.
man.
I don't know. I'm not a tall man. I'm a short man.
Don't say that. It's
There it is.
radio.
Now
Nobody
I'm
knows.
short. Look at that.
Those listening on radio, Matt's 6'9", 240.
So
No,
happy
I am
Bobby
not.
Bonilla Day. He should be rewarded for his financial savvy or the absurdness of what the Mets did. But he still gets paid for another 10 years. On this day, every year, he gets
Jeez.
$1.19 million. He's not the only one. There are some. I think Ken Griffey Jr. is still getting paid.
Yeah, Bobby
That's-
should be on Squawk Box today.
Yeah,
All
well,
the financial
Well,
shows.
this has become a bit, and I people are like, oh, that's a tired sports topic. Adam Schefter every year on Bobby Bonilla Day tweets it out, and then Darren Rovell follows up with a full breakdown on exactly what Bobby Bonilla is getting.
Does Darren Rovell have the exact ticket from the day that Bobby Bonilla made his Mets debut and he
No.
keeps it into his,
No.
okay? So I have the list of deferred money, active deferred money in the MLB right now. Devers, Chris Sale, Shohei Ohtani. Well, by the way,
Well, no, look at guys that are retired, like that haven't played for a while. Yeah, like Ohtani will be being paid. Ohtani
okay.
probably will be gone from the earth, and he'll still be getting checks.
I love. Have you ever seen the they did a Wolf of Wall Street rendition of the Ohtani deal where they AI'd it, where it was Jordan Belfort being we tricked Ohtani into thinking this deal was great, and in this market we're going to get him more money. Brett Saberhagen, he'll receive $250,000 a year from the Mets for 25 years. That began
Mets.
Hey,
began
man,
in
the
2004.
Wilpons.
He got some run support in Game 7 against the Cardinals.
Hey, they don't even pay Walt Sharp anymore.
Manny Ramirez will collect $24.2 million total from the Red Sox through 2026.
Oh, I hope Manny has saved up his money because that's going to end next year.
Well, it'll end next year, but his son will probably end up getting drafted and giving him plenty of money.
Manny Ramirez once spit on the ground in front of my ex-wife.
In disgust of something that was done?
We were
or-
walking into a strip mall in Florida during spring training, and Manny and his crew were there. And I don't think he intentionally did it, but he spit on the ground, and Amy was 4 steps away, and I'm like,
Was
"Oh,
he
this
trying
is
to
great."
tell you something?
Did Darren Rovell go and chip that out of the dirt and frame it? Ken Griffey Jr. will receive $3.5 million from the year for every year through 2024.
Okay, so we're done.
We're done.
I hope he has saved his money up.
Yeah, he's. I think he's okay. I think he's
Think
doing
so?
fine. Yeah, the baseballism. I think they're probably paying him pretty well, considering the fact that was like the most popular hat and shirt that I saw all CWS long of people buying. I think he's doing okay. This is the best one though. Chris Davis.
From the Orioles?
Yeah, it'll. So this in this ESPN article, it says Davis's arrangement with the Orioles might make him the new Bonilla, as he collects $59 million in deferred payments during a 15-year stretch that started last year
That's called retirement. That's smart.
and continues through 2037.
Nice.
Davis will receive $9.16 million in 2024, $3.5 in 2026, and $1.4 from 2033 to 2037. Good for Chris Davis. Remember,
That is
Why can't
that
radio
is
be
great
like
for
that?
him.
Chris Davis was so bad at baseball, he nearly like fully quit and left that money on the board.
I got a good agent.
He's got an incredible agent. So
also-
does Chris Bryant. That'll probably end up being a deferred money.
So also happy Canada Day to our friends up north.
Mm.
Happy to all the Canadians
Yeah.
as you celebrate the land of opportunity with the greatest national anthem of any country that is out there.
Celebrate Joe Carter, even though
Yeah.
he's one of us.
I'm sorry that we've had our differences of late, but still love you long time.
Sorry about Rick
Love,
Monday.
love your Labats. Love some of your hockey players.
Nah,
Sorry about the cup.
it's an
Sorry about
Olympic
the
year.
Vancouver
I don't-
Grizzlies.
Sorry about that. You know what? Hockey has become our sport. You guys are producing some basketball players. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Forest
We-
fires.
Jamal Murray.
we take-
Andrew Wiggins.
Hey, we take your sport and you
Steve
can
Nash.
have our MVP in the NBA. So happy Canada Day. Everybody celebrates. So reach out and say happy Canada Day to
Thank-
your favorite Canadian out there.
Get some
Thanks for
poutine.
Mitch Marner. Appreciate Mitch Marner.
Yeah, now he
He's
gets to live
finally-
in Vegas. He
he's
got
on
out
American
of
soil, baby.
he got out of Toronto. He got
Got
out of
out
that
of that.
mess. It was a very newsy day yesterday.
It was.
That's good timing, everybody. Everybody that's playing along that understands our business and knows that sometimes things get a little bit slow. You can only talk about the Royals' ineptness on offense for so long. You need some good newsy stuff.
You lost
And
again.
we got newsy stuff yesterday because I hear there's a band going to Vegas.
There's what band is it going to Vegas?
Henry Dillon and Deshaun. That is a great band name. That is a great band name that is going to Vegas
60s
later
boy
this
band?
month. Oh, 3 weeks from today, right? Yeah,
It
3
is-
weeks from
it is
today
3 weeks
is
from
the
today.
start of media days. Nebraska's there on day one. Henry Dillon and Deshaun.
That sounds like an
WWX will be
R&B boy
best
band.
hits.
Like that sounds
Yesterday and today.
not like an in sync boy
Mm.
band. Like sounds like they're singing like some soul brother music.
Oh,
you know?
baby. That
But-
hit, that with the Big Ten announcing it all at once yesterday, that hit all the topic and content creators. And they're like, yes, thank you. We have something to debate. Are these the best three to go? What are they going to sound like? Will any of them even speak?
Can you do your Casey Kasem impression, please, about Henry Dillon and Deshaun?
I don't do justice
This-
to the late Casey
This
Kasem.
this next song,
That's not
I know.
too terrible, though.
This,
I mean, it's,
this next song
okay, I
comes-
shouldn't have said it. My fault.
Eh.
was on the #1 chart for 8 weeks about a little team that is trying to do their best to make a difference. Singing this, I can't.
I'm
I can't
sorry.
do
That's
it.
my fault. I
I know.
encouraged him.
I think I
Yeah.
could do the improv really well there. It kind of failed.
Henry Dillon and Deshaun, it's
There you
your
go.
time now. You guys have been working your way up through America Needs Talent, America Needs Nebraskans, and now it's your opportunity in Vegas. Come on down. Give it up, everybody, for Henry Dillon and Deshaun from
Woo-hoo!
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, come on, baby. 8 wins.
mhm.
8 wins. 8 wins.
That's where we're at now.
It is also a.
That'd be their song. 8 wins. that's the name of their song.
It's an interesting crew. QB1 is a no-brainer, and thank you
Yeah.
to the Big Ten, because the Big Ten, we've gone through this time period before, and I think Vegas also dictates that you bring the stars. We've gone through this thing in the Big Ten where they don't bring stars or they don't bring their quarterback.
Yeah.
But there are 8 quarterbacks that are coming, including Nico. That's awesome. Thank you, UCLA, which, if you guys did not know, I'm here to tell you on July 1st is located in Los Angeles. But QB1 is going for Nebraska. The other 2 don't talk very much.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that a prerequisite?
so-
of this
so-
event?
so Lutovsky is basically just nuts and bolts. He
Ball?
kind of sounds like his offensive line coach. Okay, there's just he's not going to give you like a long soundbite.
No.
Now, Dylan will be very interesting to me because I don't know that Dylan has spent a lot of time with media outside of the Nebraska press corps.
I don't.
So he's gonna, I mean, nobody's gonna like go after him.
No.
But and none of these three are gonna say anything like billboard.
Okay.
But it'll be kind of interesting how national media talk to Dylan and how he talks to them, because I don't think he spent a lot of time with national media. Basically, it's been around all of us for a year and a half.
He really hasn't done like
Nope.
any of those podcasts or anything like that.
He hasn't done. To be honest, Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
I would guess that most people outside of this fan base don't know what his voice sounds like. He doesn't talk a lot.
No, he doesn't.
He is
That's a
out
great
there,
point.
but he doesn't talk a lot.
He really does his own media in a way. He really kind of controls his own narrative.
He's Jalen Ramsey.
In terms of the fact, well, yeah, that was a terrible deal for the Steelers yesterday. He does his own thing. He beats to his own drum. He goes to his own places. He takes his own pictures.
Yeah.
He stands in front of, the cameras that he knows he needs to stand in front of. He never, and I'm not trying to, because I'm a part of the core too that is there when he interviews. Like, he's never really
Reporter
been
Matt.
he's never really been like pressed or anything like that, or asked like questions where he really has to like battle out of anything. And I don't think he's necessarily going to have to battle out of anything.
Brett McMurphy
Vegas.
on 3. Dylan, you look like Mahomes. Go.
Talk about that.
Yeah, you're right. He hasn't.
He's
So
never
this-
really.
this will
he's
be
never
the-
been put against a wall or anything.
Yeah, and he won't be.
And he won't be.
But this will be the first time like talking to the national media.
I never thought of that.
Now Deshaun is very, I would call him grounded. He's got a
Yeah.
good story to tell, but he's not like a super talker. It was just, it's an interesting 3, but thankfully they're bringing the quarterback. It also probably answers the question if you ever had any doubt that Lutovsky was going to be one of your starting offensive linemen.
Sure.
That got answered yesterday. But thank you to the content gods, because you delivered that on the heels of what was a pretty good day for Nebraska football to wrap up June if you are into recruiting. So let me ask you, my man.
Yes.
Yesterday you said, I don't pay attention to recruiting.
Oh yeah.
You said, don't pay attention to recruiting.
I'm getting into it.
You're not a recruiting guy.
I'm not. No, that's not what I said. I said I am getting into it, and I am like leaning in and reading all the recruiting reports. I am not like you, where you are like an expert on it, and I don't know how you do it, because there's
Small
so many.
compliment right there.
Let me tell you this: there's so many Twitter notifications. There's so many different reporters. There's so many different reporters who have so many different pieces of information in terms of like what is going on. It is really hard to keep up with. Like, if there's just news just going left, right, and center all the time. But I'm doing my best. But yes.
You got to keep your head on a swivel when it comes to recruiting, especially in the month of June. And it's not over, because Larry Miles today will announce that he's coming to Nebraska, the wide receiver. But yesterday was a good day for Nebraska. But I ask you this before we dive into why it was such a good day, is if you have been out on recruiting, and that's fair because you're like, you know what, I've seen a bushel full of 4-stars come along, and they amount to
nothing.
The talent of Gary Sharp. Okay. And you're like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I don't want to see him in a uniform. And plus, who knows? They might flip. Okay. So I understand that. But even if you are a hardliner and you're like, not going to pay attention so they are in a uniform and they are on the field and my $5 program has them in it, you got to admit, Nebraska's done a really good job recovering in June.
Yes.
Because the first part wasn't good.
Mm-mm.
They lost out on a couple of guys to Michigan. They lost out on a top 300 cornerback. They had the number 1 player in their class got flipped. So they had a recovery month, and they finish up yesterday with a nice little flurry to put a cap on June. Even if you are a hardliner and you're like, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
At least they're going to follow it a little bit more, maybe?
I'm going to continue to follow it, because
did it not get you excited?
You did. You have
what old Matty Rule and hopping on the Twitter last night on this new day of college athletics, the era, just tweeting that out.
That was a tweet.
That gets you warmed in the cockles, and you're like, you know what, GBR.
Do you know what?
We need to lock down our borders. Other people in this world want to lock down their borders. We're locking down the 402.
You should be. I truly believe this.
And the 308.
You would be a great wrestling manager especially considering the fact that
I thought that was your thing.
No, but he would be a great
Why
one
did he
too.
not say a wrestler? He said wrestling manager.
Well, look,
You would be a great football
We're
coach.
past. I'm
Football coach? I
I'm
wanted
past
to
my
play.
ability to be a wrestler. I would have to be a wrestling manager at this point, unless I put on like 45 pounds and find athleticism deep down in me.
We could
that
do
I
the
don't
first
think
part
anyone
easily.
knew existed. Your line though of when the faucet turns on, right? Like that is like a great
Oh, yeah.
line, and that's true. Like it's happened multiple times now where this team decides to get like, we're not just going to get one commit in a day. We're going to get 2 commits in a day. We're going to get 3 commits in a day. Like once the water starts running, it's hard for the water to stop. And the water was
Oh.
running yesterday. I mean, that was an incredible look.
You
Claude
just
and
low
Puma-
key dropped the quote of the day there.
Well, it's only 6:24. We have a long way to go. But we talked to Schaefer on Friday.
He said he was going to Auburn.
Auburn. And so the
Do you think
fact
that Matt Rule tweet was geared toward Schaefer?
I don't know who that Matt Rule tweet was
Oh, I
geared
know
towards.
I know it. First of all, anything that Matt Rule does,
Is
if he hops
calculated.
on, if he hops on an animal, if he hops on a combine, if he tweets out, everything is intentional. Everything he does is intentional. What he does inside of the walls of a football facility, what he does on social media, what he does in the public, what he does in interviews.
Yeah.
So if you have that mindset, when you read that tweet, it will make a little bit more sense. I kid because I care. It was not about Schaefer.
Okay.
But you're right. You're right. I see where you're going here on Puma.
But for them to, and Schaefer said, and this is, I mean, I'm not ribbing Schaefer or anything like that or what he said. But at one point, Schaefer did say during the interview, like, it's going to be hard for them to compete with the NIL of Auburn, right? And now
Yeah.
I don't know, what the dollar amount that they give in Puma or if they were able to match what Auburn was giving them or anything like that. But I do know the fact that if you're down and it seems like you might be out on a Friday and then you end up getting a commitment from a 4-star offensive tackle who is one of the best in the nation 4 days later, that means that you did some pretty serious recruiting work, whether it be through money or whether it be through old school, old fashioned type things. So for them to go into Illinois and once again get a top recruit in a state where you haven't been as dominant or haven't really been that good over the last couple of years is incredibly impressive. And you get it from a program in Mount Carmel that they just win.
Yep.
I mean, they have not, Mount Carmel in the last 6 years has lost more than 3 games once. Okay. That program just churns out winners. It churns out high quality football players. Claude and Puma is one of them. It's a hell of a pickup.
I tweeted out yesterday felt like some old school Nebraska recruiting where old hunts, they went into New Orleans and got a player that is a real player, not the head coach walking in there about 10 years ago and just throwing scholarships at anybody that was upright and had a pulse and played football at that high school. Edna Carr is a really, really good high school, and there is talent that is behind Mr. Lion Noel, which is his name backwards, by the way, which I don't know if people have realized. But
like
also,
Arch
and then as you mentioned about Mount Carmel, is look at what you have that is behind him. You have a 5-star wide receiver, you have a 4-star cornerback, you have a 4-star linebacker that is also in that school. So, you identify high schools where there is talent and you can start a pipeline. I mean, look at Omaha West Side here. But the one thing that, and the 2 linemen they got yesterday are on completely different trajectories right now.
Mm-hmm.
Puma, to me, says a lot because, first of all, talking to someone last night, Nebraska never thought they were out of this.
That's great.
So Nebraska,
That's great.
Nebraska had thought since he left Lincoln that they were in a great spot. That doesn't mean they got, nice and soft and they're like, oh, we got him.
Sure.
But they never had a fear that he was going to take the money and run because of the relationship that they had built up with him. And also, let's be honest, behind the scenes, they had a lot of peer recruiting going on. But here's what I liked about this pickup is with all of that out there of, hey, Nebraska may not pay up to get a kid. Auburn may pay a lot of money to get a kid out of Chicago. Hell, that doesn't make any sense. Which then you go, oh, take the money and run.
Run, yeah.
Is Nebraska has made, you know who their priority recruits are by who hosts them, what
Good
they
point.
do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's your priority recruit and you believe with your eye for evaluation that they can help you sooner than later, then show me that you want that. And they kept battling. And it wasn't just recent. They had a battle the entire time. And they weren't going to take no for an answer. That's encouraging me to move forward as we move forward, because today changes everything.
Yeah.
Okay. College athletics, this is a new era in college sports that begins right now. And if you're going to play the game, I think Nebraska's game of still playing the relationship game, the communication game with a little bit of cheddar is the right way to go. And I think getting Puma yesterday showed me exactly that. And it encourages me that these battles that Nebraska's winning, Matt,
Yeah.
that they can, that formula works and they'll be able to do it. And it won't work all the time, okay? Because there are some that are going to take the money and run, and you don't want that kid in your program.
No.
Okay? That kid's not for your program. Okay? That kid's not for your locker room. That kid's not for the culture.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, relationships, communication, and you keep battling, and also, I think another key thing, you and I have talked about this, coaches in Lincoln want to be there.
Yeah.
You can't lie to kids. We crap on 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. Okay? They're smarter than you think.
Sure.
And you can't lie to them. Okay? Because they'll see right through you. So if I'm a coach and I'm feeding you a bunch of BS about, hey, this is a great place. Look at Lincoln. Hey, man, we don't have cornfields here. We have nightclubs. Hey, this is great. Hey, you know what?
We have nightclubs?
I raised my family here. You know what? We
There's
got
not at least one?
You know what?
One.
We got 4 security systems on the door. Hey, it's a safe place. Okay, you can't lie to them.
We got ADT right in front.
But if coaches give the impression that, yeah, I like working for Matt Rule, I like being here,
Sure.
I think that's starting to resonate.
I think the OOU and the family thing definitely is I think at first, if I'm being honest, it was a lot, like all of them being like, you're one of us or one of us. This is a big family and everything like that. And I think that's good for culture setting. But there also now has been that shift of there's still that OOU and there's still that family setting. But then there also is a lot of merit when it comes to like the coaching staff that they have with Holgerson and Eckler. And it's like, I think that's a really good combination of, hey, we're going to get you ready for the next level, but also you're going to feel welcome. I don't think I'll eat crow, but a lot of the things that I've said when it comes to recruiting is, can they beat the top dogs? Can they beat the big guys?
And that's fair.
And they've done that now twice in the last week, getting Puma and getting Danny Odom, both of which had very, and I've learned this from you in terms of, do you look at their rating? Do you look at their huddle, their film, or do you look at their offer list? Do you look at the
committable offers?
Their committable offers, the other teams that are interested in them. Odom and Puma had committable offers from top programs across the country. And so, I've kind of said Nebraska might be a no man's land in terms of the type of prospect that they're able to get to commit to them. This is an indication that they're not in no man's land, that they are amongst some of the top programs in terms of getting top recruits. And so it's a commit, but it's a commit at a great position at O-line, at tackle. That's like a cornerstone piece. And now that's 18 offensive linemen since 2023.
They're starting to stack. It's about 3 straight classes. Now, the reality is there's about 4 guys that are going to shape the future of the offensive line in Nebraska with these classes that we'll get into a little bit later.
Sure.
But your point, and we're in lockstep about offers and who, is Nebraska beat a good offensive line school for Puma.
Yeah.
They beat Michigan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I not only do I look at offer lists, I look at schools. Like if Nebraska beats Alabama for quarterback, I think DeBoer is a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
Like if I look at a coach and I think that's his strength, or that's the known of the program. Like if Nebraska beats Iowa for an offensive lineman that both want, okay, that says a lot to me because Iowa's known for an offensive line.
They beat Notre Dame for a tight end.
Or they beat Iowa for a tight end.
Yeah.
But having Michigan in his final, where Michigan is, and I don't want to get into, Michigan didn't have room, so they still
were there.
They are an offensive line school that values offensive linemen, and it's nice to see that Nebraska has made up the trenches a priority, and that's how you start a turnaround.
Yes.
Because you don't start a turnaround by getting quarterbacks and wide receivers and running backs. You start a turnaround by building in the trenches, and Nebraska is at least committed to that. Now, again, some guys got to pan out, but the Michigan wanting him and Nebraska beating a offensive line school also gives me solace in saying, all right, kid might be a little bit of a project because he hasn't played a lot of football, but if an offensive line school wants him and Nebraska beat them, that's a step in the right direction.
Do you want to grill me? because I have a list here
Of-
of the top recruits since Matt Rule has been at Nebraska, the most important commitments since Matt Rule has been at Nebraska.
Okay, go.
I have Dylan Raiola 1,
Okay.
Trey Taylor 2, Cortez Mills 3, Carter Nelson 4, Grant Bricks 5, Malachi Coleman 6, Claude Impuma 7. So
Okay.
I did a list until I got to Impuma. So I think yesterday he was easily a top 10 commit. And I give a lot of credit to Donovan Raiola and Matt Rule because both of them collectively, when they got here, the offensive line was a weakness. The offensive line was not good at all. I mean, it was, man, that Mickey Joseph year.
No, hold on here.
Sure.
I'm gonna stand up. Here's the problem. And now you got me going here.
Okay, go ahead.
By the way, you know how I feel about your 1-2. I think
know.
you should switch your 1-2.
And I still think he's the top. I still think he's the top guy. Subject to change.
Here's the problem. Here's another benefit of Nebraska. And again, they have to have productivity. I think their starting five is set. But they have, from the Gatulas to the Sledges to the Bricks to the Piles, those are 4 key guys that will dictate the future of the offensive line at Nebraska. Now, you hope that they get quality snaps this year because they're not going to start except for one of them, who is a poster child for, I'm not so sure, because I was like, oh, Gatula. I saw Maverick Noonan turn him into a turnstile in high school, and I'm like, prove me wrong, okay? But they still have to. They're adding to the class and they're adding to depth, and they've done 3 straight classes where the offensive line has been a priority.
Yeah, and they build a pipeline.
But here's the thing about offensive line play, and you can have your own opinion.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you what has helped is the head coach has stayed out of the offensive line room. Nebraska actually, Donnie Raiola and Aaron Coling are 2 good combos. There's continuity. Continuity goes a long way because if you look at the past history, and Nebraska had the greatest offensive line coach of all time in Milt Tenneper, and he was here forever. And then we went through a revolving door.
Yeah.
Continuity is huge when it comes to that particular position with the position coach. But you also had, Scott Frost wouldn't stay out of the way, okay?
Yeah.
He wanted to dingle and dangle with Greg Austin. I think Austin could have been a good offensive line coach. Well, I mean, the NFL thinks pretty highly of him right now, right?
Yeah.
So the head coach wouldn't stay the hell out of the way of the offensive line because he thought he knew offensive line play. Instead of letting the offensive line coach that you hired cook, okay? I'll give Rule credit because remember, he retained Donnie, and he has pretty much stayed out of the way. And it shows me another thing is you don't prioritize the trenches if you don't trust the guy you don't go shopping and hand the groceries off to the cook if you don't trust them.
Yes.
That tells me everything I need to know.
Well, also, too, I think Donovan Raiola, when he was retained by Matt Rule, it was during the process of recruiting Dylan. And, obviously there was probably something within there where, okay, Don, this is a good way to connect Dylan, right? But also, too, Donovan Raiola came from a legitimate offensive line coaching tree from Harry Hiestand, and is a very specific, way of coaching, right? It's not a cookie-cutter offensive way of playing offensive line. There are different techniques and different styles that Harry Hiestand has taught his guys, which Donovan Raiola teaches his guys. And I've talked to some of these offensive linemen who've told me, it was different learning it, but now that we've had a couple of years, I see playing the position in a different way, and I understand it completely, so much better now. And I understand that this technique, the techniques that we've learned from Donovan Raiola, are so much better, or a lot better than what we were doing in the past. And so I give a ton. I'm a big fan of Coach Raiola and the things that he's done in the offensive line group. But when in 2022, that game, I think it was against Rutgers in the first half, with Mickey Joseph was at the helm. They ended up winning that game, but that offensive line was tough, right? And that whole year, the offensive line was tough, and that was Donovan Raiola's first year. And what I always appreciated about his offensive line groups is that they got better as the year has gone on. You've kind of seen it year after year. They're not at their best in week 1. That's kind of what I'm now looking for from this offensive line.
Well, now it's
talent.
But now it's go time.
Exactly.
Because you have, Pritchett. Was it a Milroe thing? Was it a Pritchett thing?
Yeah.
Rocco Spindler can't take a step back. You move Justin Evans to center, where the last time he was there, we had a little bit of an issue. I like him more at guard. now you have, I think Lutovsky is locked in at the other guard spot, and then you got Gatula. So you're starting 5, and then you got Corcoran and Prohaska that are still around. This is
all the young guys.
This
too.
is the year, but there's development.
Yes.
This is now where you have a blend of guys that have played some football that you like, that you think can play in the NFL, because you can't have a guy that started the most games at Nebraska at offensive line and not get drafted. That's a bad look. So now it's the start of, okay, now we're talking about the X's and the O's.
Well,
okay, can they play on Saturday? And can you make the shift with the offensive line at Nebraska, where there was really no game last year that Nebraska lost where he went, well, the offensive line was a problem.
No.
But there was really no game that you said they won because of the offensive line.
There hasn't been a game like that since I've been here in the last 5 years.
That's the shift of that has to be once or twice or multiple times a conversation about this season. And I always go back to, if you need a 4-minute drive, can the offensive line churn out a 4-minute drive for you?
I would love one year to be the Cowboys.
I would love and have a Netflix special after you.
No, I would.
It's going to be a banger, Jimmy.
You want to underachieve? And, we're going to go 10-2. Oh, we went 7-5.
I want to walk into a season being like, it doesn't really matter who our running back is. We have such a good offensive line where we're going to be able to run over everybody.
Oh, those Cowboys.
Yeah. That's what I want.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a luxury.
I would love to walk into a season being like, we know that every single
Nebraska
game
was
that
like
we
that
play,
back then.
or damn near every single game we play, we're going to have an advantage on the offensive line, and that our quarterback is going to have time and our running back is going to have time. And that commitment yesterday from Claude and Puma, and there has to be more. But that one in particular definitely gets you a step closer to that.
You're right about the Netflix special, though. I got to admit, I saw the trailer. I was like, it can be pretty good.
It's the Cowboys.
It's America's team. They'll always be America's team.
Yeah,
August
19th forever.
We're doing 8 parts, though. That's a lot.
8 parts for 8 wins.
8 parts.
Like it.
Was this? I haven't heard.
You got to see the trailer. They put out the trailer yesterday. I hope
everybody's in it.
I hope the show is as good as the trailer, because the trailer was pretty good for 2+ minutes.
Saw Jimmy Johnson. I was like, I'm sold.
All right, coming up later on the show, Evan Bland will stop by, as we are now into July after a newsy day of content yesterday, not just with Nebraska football recruiting, but other things. That is the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. All right, we're off and running. More on recruiting, because Nebraska will add one today.
Mm-hmm.
And?
Yeah, you got a boy band.
Hey. Henry Dillon and Deshaun.
I can't.
Performing at the Mandalay Bay.
Performing their hit single. 8 wins. It's Henry, Dillon, and Deshaun.
We're back with more of Gary and Matt with Jimmy after this on 1620 The Zone. And Bobby Bonilla. All right, we do have the Darren Rovell tweets. Happy
Oh.
Bobby Bonilla Day. Bobby gets his 15th installment of $1.19 million today. They have paid him $17.9 million for him not to play the 2000 season. There's 10 years left. Here's the thing. It's just an incredible contract negotiations because when Bonilla was set to be from the Mets, they only owed him $5.9 million.
Okay.
And he got it deferred at 8% interest. Then the Mets went and found an even better rate to invest with Bernie Madoff. So, yes, that's why this continues.
That gets even
Bonilla
better.
also gets
Didn't
$500,000 from the Orioles through the end of the
Whoa.
decade. Another thing, Max Scherzer just got a $15 million check from the Washington Nationals today.
Oh, yeah, World Series
Welcome.
hero.
Welcome to the start of the new fiscal year, July 1.
So do you guys remember who they traded Bobby Bonilla for, or who they ended up getting for Bobby Bonilla? Because didn't he end up winning the World Series MVP, the guy that they traded Bobby Bonilla for? I remember I watched a video on it, and the guy that they ended up getting back for Bonilla actually ended up like helping them be incredibly successful. But we just remember the fact that every July 1st that the Mets end up having to pay this guy who hasn't played for their team in 20 years $1 million.
Well, he was Bonilla was part of once a trade that included Gary Sheffield and Mike Piazza.
Okay.
And they were good.
Okay.
Then he was traded. Before he got released by the Mets, right after the first of the year in 2000, he got traded by the Dodgers back to the Mets for the famous Mel Rojas.
You can always count on Darren Rovell on
Not
2
related
days:
Cookie?
Bobby Bonilla Day and Martin Luther King Day. Those are the 2 days. You don't
What
know,
does he do on Martin Luther King Day?
You don't know about Darren Rovell's very famous Martin Luther King Jr. Memorabilia collection?
No.
He has look up MLK Darren Rovell. He has an incredibly extensive memorabilia collection from Martin Luther King Jr. in which he like shows off on MLK Day. It's multiple like documents that have been signed by him and whatnot, and he like posts videos and pictures of it and stuff like that. He also famously tweeted out one time, calling me a racist is cute. On this day especially, I have one of the largest Martin Luther King Jr. collections in the world, and some of my closest friends are black.
Of course, that's always the default.
That's a Darren Rovell tweet. That at Bobby Bonilla Day.
Okay. Or the Washington football team tweeting out something on Columbus Day.
Yeah,
Always,
that's tough.
Or Thanksgiving. All right.
I have to.
Here is
They have to.
Nebraska Ball Mike on the Prairie Flower Casino Hotline. Good morning, Mike.
My
Good
guy.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi, what do you want to know, Gary?
Oh,
I'm assuming that your date with my co-host went well on Friday.
It did.
we had a great time.
3 over-unders have been placed,
Okay.
so those are out there. Over on Green Bay, under on Atlanta, and over on Indiana football.
Okay.
I got him to get over on Indiana football. I couldn't fight him though on Green
Yeah.
Bay. He really wanted the Packers.
How was your experience?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want any old person ever again to look at a young person and say anything bad about video games. Because all everybody does there is play video poker or video slots.
That is true.
It
That
is
is true.
really weird.
It is an insane amount of people at that casino who play
Yes.
video poker and who play slots. It's ridiculous.
Did you make some new friends?
Only the driver that took me home.
Okay.
Otherwise, it was a good day,
All right.
and we will wait and see what happens in January and February.
Yeah, because we're going to have to go back to collect your winnings.
Yeah, at least
Hopefully.
one of them. I'm confident in one of them.
Oh, I'm confident in 2 of them.
Well, why do we make 3 then?
I was about to say you should be
Xavier
confident
Watts.
in all of them.
Xavier Watts.
All right. All right. Well,
Unfortunately, I went under on Atlanta because I think they're a year away.
the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They're a
I
weird
don't
team
know
this
if Michael Penix has enough talent around him.
Ooh.
It's a good point. I mean,
Mm.
he's got
Got a pretty good
Bijan,
running
he's
back.
got
He's a pretty good wide receiver.
London.
His tight end probably should be traded to Miami.
everybody getting traded to Miami.
He's got a cannon for an arm. That's all I know.
He does. All right. Well,
So-
we'll have to do this more often. Take you to the casino.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that wear
I'm
you
not
out?
one of those who needs
What do
to
you mean?
gamble.
Where it didn't
anymore.
wear you out, Mike? You just went to the ale house and you had a nice Reuben. How did that wear you out?
I did, but I heard the brisket chili was actually pretty good too, and I want to try that the next time I go.
See, that's how they get you
Did
coming back.
did your date pay for your afternoon at the casino?
Hell no.
I brought the money that I put down.
Oh,
I
okay.
know that.
All right. Did he try and get you to go over to the horse racing area
No.
to maybe look
I
at
walked through
the
it. I'm
sixth
not
race
gonna-
at Remington Park?
You want to talk about money that I don't understand that gets traded every freaking 30 seconds.
It's called Bitcoin.
Well, that too.
Everybody knows I
But
bet on
we
the
won't
Keeneland
get into
races.
what I feel about that because that'd take an hour.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how you can bet on an animal and think you know anything.
Whoa, Mike, you definitely can. All right. You know, there are speeds and there are practice times and there are furlongs. There's also just, how they look. Always bet on the gray horses. That's what I say.
Yeah, was that you at 10 years old and now you've grown up? Or
Now
is
I've
that
grown
you
up.
Now?
And now it's my money, not my grandpa's money.
All right, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Mike, I'm glad you had a good time, and
I did.
we'll have to hang out more often.
All right,
After dark.
you
Mike After Dark. You okay?
do. Bye, bye.
Okay. Well, we'll figure it out. I think you're more entertaining after dark.
Well, we were in light.
Kind of.
Yeah. And your younger self, you got after it a little bit.
I did.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I did.
That's the word on the street.
You know.
Yeah, I know. I've
All right.
heard. We've gotten better. So we'll have to do a Nebraska Ball Mike After Dark outing.
That'd be incredible.
Hey, when
They
are we doing
rolling.
the roundtable before the football season?
We're figuring it out.
Before the year begins in August.
There you go.
Let me know. I'll come in.
Hey, all right.
Hey,
You want to be on the
hey.
panel?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hell yes.
Okay. All right. Send us a resume. We're going to need to check your knowledge.
Jeez.
All right. Hey, have a wonderful day, Mike.
You too.
All right.
It was a little awkward when I sat down at the table and he was ordering food, and I don't know if anyone has ever been in that situation where they're like, I'm not overly hungry, but I could eat,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily want to pay, and I don't know if I order if the person who is like I'm sitting with is going to pick up the bill. Have you ever had that tango before, that game of chicken
Wow.
where you don't know if you're covered? I didn't know if I was covered, so I decided not to eat. And so I just had a glass of water, and then Mike
Couldn't
had,
have just picked up the
no,
bill?
it's not. I mean,
It's not
Couldn't have had a
easy-
bowl
it's
of
not
lettuce
easy
or
for him
something?
to get there.
Yeah.
You
okay,
could have
but
been
I
like,
didn't invite him. He invited me. I was his guest
It's just hey, thanks, Mike.
for listening to the
appreciate it.
show.
I got
Oh,
it.
for
Yeah.
being a friend.
Yeah.
I had never met him before, so we became friends. We sat down.
You were here the day that he came in.
No, I
studio?
wasn't.
Oh, he
The
wasn't.
one
Just me and
day-
you.
Oh,
The
okay.
one day I've taken off the entire time I've started working here was the day he came in. So I met Mike for the first time.
That's when he
right
was
then and
dying.
there. We talked for an hour. We just sat down. We just went back and forth.
You
about
just out of the
Nebraska
kindness of your
football.
heart say, you know what, Mike? You're what makes America great.
Well,
Pick
he
up
had,
his.
he,
What would it cost you? $9.17
had
and
a-
throw in a tip.
he had a friend who was with him as well, who also ordered, and he got like a steak salad. And so that was kind
Oh
of
my God!
it would have been like a $50 tab. It would have been expensive.
Welcome to adulthood.
I've picked up so many tabs for so many
I
people
can't
recently.
believe you didn't pick it up for the party.
I was invited on his behalf and I sat down. I just didn't order anything. I sat down, I hung out with him. I just had a glass of water. I went to a casino and I gambled $0. That was the power Mike
And
had
you
over
should have
me.
used the money that you were going to gamble to take care of Mike and his assistant.
No, I ran over to Iowa and then I placed bets on UFC. Stupid Moicano.
Of
How do you not
course.
knock him out in the first
Of
round?
course.
That parlay would have cashed.
All right, coming up a little bit later, Evan Bland will stop by. Also, in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to do something here. with the last 5 head coaches at Nebraska. When did you realize that they were cooked? What was the game that you realized that they were cooked?
So you texted me this last night, very kind of out of nowhere, and immediately I go, "Let's go!" It's perfect.
We'll do that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy July 1. Waking up this morning with a couple of thoughts. One, I miss torpedo bat discussion.
Well, isn't Cal Raleigh, isn't he using a torpedo bat?
I don't think so. Is he?
I saw a tweet that like people like
it was going to ruin baseball this year. Opening day, people were hitting home runs with torpedo bats. It was going to ruin Major League Baseball. I miss those discussions.
That was a fun 4 days.
He hit his 33rd last night as he beat the team that should be selling. Don't worry, Kansas City fans.
Come
Chiefs training
on.
camp opens up in a couple of weeks.
Not yet. They don't have to be selling
It's
yet.
getting close.
It is
It's
getting
real
close.
Are they
close.
really going to be able to go out and get a bat?
No way.
I think
Which
that
might
if
answer the
they
question.
can make it to the All-Star break and they still can be a couple games under 500, like 2 or 3 games under 500. I know they're 6 now. If they
39 and 46, I think.
okay, so they're 7. If
I
they
stayed
can,
up to watch that game last night.
I did not.
Why didn't I pull the ripcord after it got to be 5-1 after Rosarina hit his second home run?
I got
Cagli-
Big Dumper and a Rosarina. Good night.
Caglione is 1 for his last 30. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
So that's a discussion point with the Royals. You take out his 2-homer game, he is 8 for 81.
Jeez.
So that's .098.
He's fitting right in.
But here's the thing: you rushed him through,
You did.
so you have to keep him up there and
Yep.
let him work through it. He is just Mr. Ground Ball guy, and in BP he goes the opposite way. But in games he pulls everything.
Well,
You can't. You have to keep him up there, and you have to let him work through it. Because think about if you'd be admitting out loud that you rushed him because you were
Well-
desperate, because your offense this is one of the worst offenses in the last 25 years in Kansas City, which if you look at the top 6, you go, how? But they're atrocious offensively. So you thought Caglione would give you a boost, and it hasn't worked out. And last night he looked really lost. But think about if they sent him back to Omaha. There would be such a there would not be a buzz. I don't know that people would be running to the Storm Shop to buy a 14 T-shirt.
well,
So let him work through it in the majors, and eventually he'll come out on the other side. He's going to be really good.
sure.
It's just he is in an offense that is really, really bad right now, and he just is adding to the atrociousness of
Well-
the Kansas City offense. And they're not going to be able to find a bat,
No, well, no, I don't. And
a
I
bat
don't,
that makes a difference.
I don't really. They're going to need 3 bats that would make a difference. But I do think that their pitching has definitely been very, very good to the point where I mean, they should be way worse. If you just look at their offensive numbers are equal to some of the worst teams in the MLB. So it indicates the fact that their pitching has done really well this year. But with Caglione, you're right in terms of the hype. We definitely wouldn't be like, oh my God, Jack is back. Like we wouldn't
Mhm.
be freaking out like when he first came up. At the same time, there definitely is. I mean, and we've seen it this year with Matt Shaw, where it's like can be a benefit of going back down for a little bit with the knowledge, knowing, hey, we're going to tweak some stuff and then we'll come back up. Because
He hasn't been much different.
yeah, well. He was different when he initially came back, but you got to let him go through the lumps. But you say admitting out
I'd
loud,
let Caglione play every day.
but you say admitting out loud that you rushed him through. They don't need to admit out loud that they rushed him through. We all saw it. We all saw them rush him through AAA and what he played 11 games. So, and this also happens. I mean, this happens quite often, in my opinion, to top prospects when they come up and they're immediately treated like they are some of the top bats in the league, and the difficulty of the at bats that you have to go through. But he's going to be fine. They're probably going to end up selling.
This is what I would do.
They are in so much
Oh,
trouble. They are in so much trouble.
Well, and then they got to figure out in the offseason, how do you attract a free agent hitter? They have some intriguing pieces. I mean, they're even but Bobby was okay last night, but they're affecting Bobby Witt Jr. Is what I would do is I'm Kansas City. And I mean, you're headed towards Chiefs training camp, so the buzz of last year is going to subside.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about your new stadium, Washington Square Park. That will become a discussion point, I believe, in the second half of the season. You always create a distraction when things aren't going well. You move on to the other thing, so people don't talk about that thing.
That's a good point.
So let's talk about the
Creating
stadium, where there could
stadium.
be some encouragement and some excitement about, hey, we're going to have a new stadium. It's
We're
going
gonna
to be
win.
outside of we're going to move away from the Chiefs.
It's kind of like when Nebraska fires a coach midseason, and so now we're just talking about the new coach that'll come in as opposed to the bad season. That
Oh,
we're
I remember
currently
those
having.
days.
Or it's called current politics. Okay. So, we missed the torpedo bats, and you're waking up to that discussion. Also, you're waking up to the fact that last year, 4 of the 6 teams that led their division won their division. They were in first place on July 1. So, congratulations to Philadelphia, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Tigers, and the Astros. 18 of the last 28 World Series winners have been in first place on July 1.
if the season always ended at like 100 games or 80
Mhm.
games or 90 games, I feel like the Cubs would have made the playoffs like the last.
Well, if
Like
our
8
if
of the
our
last
if our
10
worst
years.
thing is that we had a 500 month of June, I'm okay for now.
Well,
Big series starting tonight at home against the Guardians.
what was I did find the stat that they haven't won a series. The Cubs
they're-
haven't won
they're
a series
they're-
over a
they're
team
definitely
over 500
they're definitely treading water.
since April 22nd. Now, I'm not freaking out about it because what's the classic saying? Beat the teams you're supposed to be and then go 500 against the good teams. That's kind of what they're doing to a certain extent.
Or do you say 60
But,
and 60 and
you
then
know,
find
Well,
This-
I always every this is a good baseball man told me this when I got in baseball. He said, "This is how we approach a season." He said, "We are going to be 60 and 60. What do we do with the other 42 games?"
Wow.
Now, some people never get to 60, and
Sure.
you're really, really bad. But you just go in with the mindset that we're going to be 60 and 60, and do we have the pieces to figure out the other 42 to get us into the playoffs? They're in first place. I'm still okay.
Well,
They're back home. I got Cleveland and St. Louis on this homestand. They are not the bullpen. So the starters haven't been great, but the
No.
bullpen has been pretty good.
Colin Ray has taken a major
Yeah.
step back since I said
I'm
that
not-
he was an
it's
incredible
July
pickup.
one-
Do you remember when
you
I
know
said
what?
that? Do you remember when I
Hey,
said that in
hey.
April? I go, oh my God, Matthew
Yeah.
Boyd and Colin Ray. They look incredible. Shout out Jed.
Now I knew Matthew Boyd would be good
Yeah.
because I
Well, he's-
coming back from Tommy John surgery, the way he pitched last year in Cleveland, especially in the postseason, I thought, okay, this is a good pickup.
Sure.
But is he going to be the number one guy? They got to. Cade Horton has to find. I mean, that's
slider.
a Craig Counsell thing to figure out the right button to push with him. They're in first place in July 1. I've been a Cub fan for a long time.
I know.
I'll take the ups and downs. They went 500 in June, and they're still in first place. If that's the worst thing that happened, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Have you seen kind of the cannibalization of this team's fan base on Twitter though? After Cam
Oh.
Smith looked really good,
Well, that just shows you
You
got to
just-
sign Kyle Tucker.
you just can't have nice things though. I mean, they are.
Yeah, but we knew he was going to be.
I know, but you're
Yeah.
first place in the Central, and Kyle Tucker is amazing, and you have a team that legitimately could win
Well.
the World Series. Let's just take a deep breath and enjoy it,
Yeah.
and then get all pissy about
Yeah.
it at the end of the year.
Yeah, Cubs Twitter is after games, just like any other Twitter. There's a little bit up ablaze.
Well,
They got to
Cubs
figure
Twitter-
out the bench. They got 3 guys on the bench that do as much as I do.
Well, Justin Turner's
He's a black hole.
but he is a locker room guy. He is a locker room guy.
That's
he's in
great.
there, he's in
You
there
know
for
what?
the locker room. He's
know
in there
what?
to put on
Hey,
fake nuts and
that's
jump
great.
around and
It's
make
Ju-
say
it's
it's
July 1.
laugh.
All right. If my locker room isn't good on July 1,
That's a good.
I ain't keeping a guy around just because he's a good locker room
I-
guy. He needs to be productive. Okay? There we go. Get us a right-handed bat. Get us a little bench help. Maybe find a starting pitcher. Okay? And then we're good.
Cal-
And then we'll be boogieing on the north side.
Cal, we already are boogieing on the north side. I'll be boogieing on the north side this weekend, baby. Cal Raleigh, though, using a torpedo bat when he bats lefty,
Okay.
but a regular bat when he bats righty. Now, this is from Reddit, so I
Okay.
don't know if it's the most trusted source
And
ever. That's why
the
I'm
big
citing
dumper
sources.
has 33 home runs.
Jeez, man.
He's on pace to hit over 60.
He's the MVP. I know that Judge is having an incredible year, but you also have to factor in the fact that he's playing catcher, and he's awesome at catcher.
You're also waking up this morning to a tweet from the head football coach at Nebraska on the new era of college sports that began at midnight. 447,000 of you have viewed. Too many people have profited financially off of negativity and despair. Their time is over. How many of our media brethren
Yeah.
who, like to be part of the story said, "Ooh, I wonder if that's about me and my podcast or my show or my website."
Here's my thing. I don't think I've benefited financially enough to fall in within this bracket of the tweet. I think you have to be financially in a certain bracket to be guilty of committing whatever wrongdoing Matt Rule is accused. So I think I'm out. I'm laissez-faire here.
I believe this is about NIL and agents because it was shortly after the latest pickup for Nebraska. But welcome to Matt Rule being back on Twitter and being passive aggressive. Remember, everything he does is intentional. And by the way, just win.
It was.
Just win,
Have you
please.
have you seen
Please.
Matt Rule's profile
Can't put up with these
picture?
Iowa fans that
It-
are wondering if you're serious with your boombox and your animal that you're
steer.
sitting on,
So the profile picture,
but you're getting under their skin. That's great.
the profile picture is awesome of him on the boombox with the steer, and
Mhm.
then his banner is just the Husker private jet. Okay, that is such a flex of a Twitter
Mhm.
profile to be like, yeah, look at me with my drip posing in front of a steer. And by the way, here's my private jet that I regularly fly in on my banner. That's like hey, how you doing? I'm Matt Rule. Nice to meet you.
But with that said, the 25 season, just win, baby.
8 wins.
Doesn't it seem like there is more of a push to sell tickets this year?
Yeah. So when you go to the Huskers.com and you're looking through the football schedule and you're just looking through the news, you always get the pop-up of, hey, here's the ticket package.
Mm-hmm.
And it's consistently there. Like you can't lose it. Like they're always advertising this ticket. Like, look, first thing that pops up on the Huskers.com.
So they announced that yesterday. The football single game tickets went on sale.
And
but it's just, there has been, I remember, like for the longest time, there was never any tickets available. And then I think it was like Kenny Bell or somebody about a decade ago, they did a commercial. I think Eric Crouch, Kenny Bell, and Jet were in this commercial, and that single game tickets were available. And I was like, whoa, never thought I would see that. I'm pretty sure that trio did a ticket commercial.
Okay.
But this year has been more of a push. And then I noticed something yesterday when they announced the single game tickets.
Okay.
Which I looked at the prices, and I know if you are a season ticket holder, there is an attachment of a personal seat license. My average single game ticket, much less than you all that are picking and choosing which games. I just want to throw that out there.
Well,
they are doing promotions. I don't recall that Nebraska football has ever had an egg day. Now, the Michigan game, they're going to honor the 95 team.
Yes.
But against Houston Christian, the promotion is Egg Day. I don't recall that Nebraska football has ever had. They released a promotional schedule.
What's Ag Day? Is that they're just gonna? I don't know what does that even entail?
It'll be a celebration of agriculture. I'm sure they'll do a couple of those things, but I don't recall that ever being attached to a Nebraska home football game.
There is a promotion for every single game. So there's the home opener has a drone show. Then there's Ag Day. Then there's the championship reunion for Michigan. Then there's homecoming. That's always standard though. But then Northwestern has military appreciation game. USC has Nebraska Athletics Hall of Fame, and Iowa has Senior Day / Heroes game. So I guess Ag Day and military appreciation are two promotions
they've done. I don't know if they've advertised it, but they have done some military appreciation stuff.
Yeah.
But the Ag Day is new. I had not seen that until yesterday. So, I mean, they're working
farmers,
they're working
discounts.
Yeah. They're
got to honor Sir Parker.
Farmers
too,
only game.
Yeah.
It should be. You're playing Houston Christian. The garbage that you're charging me to go to that game, it should be a farmers only game.
You got to walk through a screener and be like, "No, you're too city. Can't come to this one. Can't watch Houston Christian."
But you watch RFD?
I don't.
Well, yes, sir.
Jimmy, you've been around a little bit longer. I don't recall like this much of a constant everyday push to sell tickets because they have billboards. If you drive on 80, you're headed towards like Sarpy County.
Yeah.
They have billboards going both ways.
I had to do a double take on one of them.
Tickets available. They were selling the 3-game pack, and the Michigan game sold out. But I don't recall like as much of a daily push to sell tickets like I'm seeing now.
Is it because of the things we've talked about as to why people opt to not go to games anymore?
Well, I think they also did not have
the season ticket.
Well, season ticket renewal
that they were looking for.
So it opened up some seats.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is around this time, or is it next month where we get hey, this is what the sellout streak looks like? Because typically, I mean, we typically get an update, right? Of like, hey, there's X amount of tickets left that we need to buy.
Season will be sold out.
Well, I figured that, but I wonder. But I'm just doing it as a baseline reference of like, are they behind in terms of like typically where they're at this time of year for selling tickets? Because I don't remember last year the tweet. So they tweeted out, hey, these are our single game, or these are our 3-game package. Here's our 3-game package. Here are the games that you can choose from. That's not uncommon. But I don't ever remember them sending out another tweet being like, hey, by the way, here's the 3-game package once again that you can buy, which is what they've done. Granted, Michigan sold out.
I mean, Houston Christian is going to be a tough one to sell. Akron being the home opener will be a little bit easier to sell.
Thus they said drone show.
I think Houston Christian might be the only one that'll be difficult to sell. And I don't
Thus, the ticket price on that game.
I don't think
Hey, people that don't always get to go to games.
Do you think, you always, like, if you're an opponent, you're like, oh, I wonder what homecoming game we are. Do you think you look at the ticket prices?
oh my God, you have to.
Hey, we
You
think
have
highly
to.
of Michigan, USC, Iowa. You're third. You're only $100.
Well,
I mean,
sit on the
that's
sidelines?
Fair.
Can you got to think
Be a little
that
cold.
athletic department probably goes through like that on ESPN when they do the CFB list and they always have like the ticket prices like starting at whatever.
Yeah.
Like if you're like have a really big game and it's starting at like 22, you're like, "Really? Only $22 see us go play Michigan State?" But I mean, Michigan is going to be the most expensive game. Does a 1995 reunion though? That doesn't like move the needle in terms of like ticket sales or attendance for you, does
Well,
it?
it was not. So that promotion, you put that promotion on a big game because
Yeah.
you want those guys back because they're going to be around players
Fire
and it's a
'em up.
monster game. Yeah, you don't throw that on a Houston Christian game
No.
thinking, hey, people are going to show up to come watch the 95 dudes.
But-
you put it on a day where it's a big game. And so guys that,
Pull every string possible to get every ounce of noise and
that
emotion.
They talk to your team before the game. They're on
Yes.
campus. We don't want to embarrass the 95 team because 30 years ago they kicked ass. Yeah.
They would win this game by 50.
If they are having a tough time and like selling tickets, I would honestly be pretty surprised just because not surprised in terms of, hey, it's less now than what it used to be, but I would be pretty surprised just because I feel like this is a year where there is legitimate hype, where there is, I think, more merit now to point that they could be a good team than you've had over the last 6-7 seasons. Like, I think that this team, out of all the teams that we've had over the last couple of years, has the best argument to actually win 8 games, to actually win 9
Give
games.
them credit though. They're not going with that mindset of, hey, look, we got they're like, you know what, we gotta fill the stadium. So it's not like it used to be you had to come to us. Now they're coming to you. That's okay. That's okay. Things change. The dynamics change. The age changes. People have different interests.
Yeah.
And they also, the return on investment. I mean, there are a lot of people that said, hell
Well-
no to season tickets because you know what? I don't have to buy season tickets. I can get individual games, and it's not that hard to get games.
That, and it's so much better to watch the game on the couch.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, that's what they're working against, and they're trying to fix
Like I love
without winning. Where
Yeah,
you're like,
sure.
you're gonna come because we're the cock of the walk.
But this is, I love going to games and I'm never going to stop going to games, but I'm willing to admit that most of the time I would much rather watch football or really any other sport attached to my couch with my very free food. And
Well, you want to
my
watch multiple
booze
games.
that cost less.
And you got a great setup.
Yeah,
with your
and you got
4
multiple
boxes,
TVs and you got your quad
Mhm.
boxes and you got diners, drive-ins, and dives on the bottom right-hand corner. You can't beat that.
Not
You
judging.
can't
All
be
right,
watching Guy Fieri.
coming up at 8:00. We're going to do a little exercise. When did you realize your coach was cooked? Was Matt Rule, the UCLA game?
No, we're not there yet.
We will do the last 5 coaches, and you can share yours like Knoxville Chris has already done. We'll do that coming up in the 8:00 hour. On when did you realize that Solich,
Was screwed.
Callahan, Bo, Riley, Frost, not a moment. Like, I knew Frost was cooked when Trev was named as the athletic director at
Sure.
Nebraska, but the particular game,
Well,
like you look at, is Matt Rule the first head coach at Nebraska in a while that was not hired by the current athletic director, but when the current athletic director came in, you didn't say, he's cooked.
probably.
I mean,
Probably.
Peterson to Solich,
Yeah.
basically T.O. to Callahan,
Yeah.
Moose to Riley, Trev to Frost.
Well, that's a great point, but also too,
I mean, Icourse to Bo.
Rule literally, I mean, they were friends. They knew each other beforehand, so that helped them out massively. But yeah, it's a great point.
All right, off and running. It's Monday, or no, it's a Tuesday. Happy July, everybody. Yes, it is a Tuesday.
You just scared somebody.
Yeah. All right. It's a short week, by the way. We'll be off on the Friday with all of you lighting fireworks in your neighborhood.
No.
Early and often. But
No.
remember the pets
No.
and the small children.
Shout out
And-
JPP.
And
No.
your digits. Oh, yeah. We celebrate JPP.
We don't celebrate. We use them as a warning.
Celebrate
Don't be
having
JPP.
fingers.
We
Yes.
celebrate because some people are idiots.
He still went
We
out
should
and
celebrate more people that are idiots so that we don't have to celebrate it.
He still went out and had a couple great seasons after that, though.
He did.
It was the club. It was the club.
We're back with more after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, Moose Roofing. Oh, yeah. You know, the fireworks that come with Mother Nature. Maybe you've done some damage on your home, whether it be your roof, your siding, your gutters, and you're like, what do I do? Because of severe weather, high winds, hail, they have done damage. Now, I got to fix my roof. But I want a local contractor. But God, I hate working with contractors. Well, firsthand experience, Moose Roofing is the place to go. They are local, so that is essential. And as you work with Moose Roofing, they will meet your criteria of what you're looking for, and that is top-notch professionalism. From the insurance claim process to the pictures and the knowledge that they have, guys like Sean Michael, their sales rep, they will take care of you as they work you through the process, and they work with your insurance company to make sure that this is right for you, and then they go to work. They'll let you know about proper ventilation, the difference in the type of shingles the step roofers can employ to ensure roof longevity. All of those things, that's what Moose Roofing specializes in. They will guide you through the whole process, then they will take care of you. They will get the job fixed, roofing, siding, gutters, and you'll never know that they were there when they're done. Your yard is not left a mess. There's not nails. There's not shingles. There's not other things. There's not somebody's leftover lunch. Yep, they are top-notch from top to bottom. Find out what they can do for you. If you have roofing, siding, or gutter needs, Moose Roofing. The MVPs of roofing in Omaha, and they're local, are right for you. Schedule an inspection today online at mooseroofing.com. Good morning. God dang.
It's
I think it's Monday. Welcome to Tuesday morning. A lot of people yesterday either quit their job or got a new job.
Hey, congratulations.
Or, you find out that Vince Morrow resigned via text at Kentucky. When he went to
Already?
Louisville, yeah, he
Oh,
resigned
no.
via text.
Oh no.
A lot of
Even-
people break up over text.
Mhm. I've been
Uh,
fired over email.
I
Been
have
fired over a text.
see is
Not yet.
is breaking up over phone call, is that as scorned as breaking up over text? Is that as bad? Because that's how I broke up.
You
With
send
my
your
one
friend to
girlfriend.
break
Well, I think
up
a
with.
text would be worse than a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like you still need to do it in person regardless.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He said deuces forever. Does that mean we broke up?
Oh, Vince Morrow resigned via text. Sent a text to Mark Stoops, and Stoops' response was, when will you have your vehicle at my house? It was like super cold.
Wow.
So there was a Freedom of Information Act request that they got the text exchange.
Hey, I'm outie.
Terry writes into the Equitable Bank inbox.
Terry, I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, golf day?
Golf day tomorrow.
Be a beautiful day
All
for
right.
it.
We need
Tibber
it.
on Terry. Said, hi, guys. Earlier, we were talking about Nebraska's 2 offensive line pickups. One's a little bit more of a project. The other one, I know he hasn't played a lot of football, and he's a soccer guy, but I like the feet. I like the athleticism. Why
Yeah.
can't he play right away? But
He's
Terry,
6'8".
he's what, 6'8" and 305 bills?
It's crazy. That's
Yeah.
like, but that's
Imagine
like,
the food bill in that household.
insanity.
Tiburon Terry writes in, another factor with the O-line being successful this year is to get through August with everyone healthy.
Yeah.
Whoa, the 2 unhealthy guys aren't starters.
Well, I was talking about this to somebody like this is a year, like last year I was pretty confident in the offensive line, but it was with the understanding of like, I hope none of them get hurt, because if one of them gets hurt, like we might be in trouble, and especially within the interior. I feel good
Yeah,
like
some
about
nice
the depth
depth.
this year. Like
Yeah.
there's actually depth on this offensive line. We couldn't have said
I think
that
they have a
2 years ago.
legit. I think they have a legit backup at every spot.
Yes.
Seems we're always looking forward to a very good line, and then a major injury happens and turns the line into a revolving door in a bad way. Fingers crossed for a healthy August. Also, fingers crossed that Nebraska is able to recruit more true tackles.
Mm.
There are a lot of guys like Noel, which spelled backwards is Lion Noel, from New Orleans yesterday.
Okay, here.
I think
Terry.
he'll eventually be a center.
Oh,
Ironically, interesting. Maybe this tells me a little bit about the offensive line room. Justin Evans was his host. Older guys don't usually host
okay,
recruits.
sure.
Tells me something. I think eventually he'll be a center, but he's definitely somebody who they need to get in and work on the weight, and then they need to develop properly. But there's a lot of guys that are recently, you go, well, they could play the interior. It'd be nice to have some true tackles where you
Well-
don't even go, I wonder if there'll be a guard someday. No, they're built like a tackle. They can play tackle because
They're
they're
gonna be-
athletic enough.
they're gonna
We're
be a
not going to move them to the interior. I think Puma will be tackle, of course. I think Noel will. I think he'll be a center someday. But back to the depth.
Yeah.
I think you could find a way that Nebraska has a nice 2 deep on the offensive line this year, because they always say, hey, I want to be able to trust 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I pressed old Donnie,
I think 10.
I think you could squeeze him for 10.
I think you could squeeze him for 10. And that's how I appreciate the fact that they came in with a plan when Matt Rule came to Nebraska in terms of this is how we're going to build the offensive line.
Mhm.
And they've revealed that plan. And now they kind of are sticking to that plan.
Mm.
But this is a position group where they also have utilized the portal in a very nice way. Like they haven't, I do not like the whole let's overhaul a position completely with the portal. Like I prefer to mix of, hey, you have guys who have come up in your system, you have guys who understand what we're trying to do, you've developed them, and then we have a guy here who comes in, he plugs in.
Yeah.
Where I like the wide receiving core. I really like Dane Key. I really like Isaiah Hunter. But at some point, I would like to stop we have to get 2 wide receivers every single year from the portal. We have to get our top 2 guys pretty consistently. And I think they're on the right track with Mosey and Cortez Mills and Ja'Cory Barney in terms of, hey, we could maybe do that and we can have a homegrown wide receiver. This offensive line group is a group
Homegrown
where
running back.
yeah, that homegrown. I mean, just homegrown in general, and then use the portal to plug. They've done a nice job plugging pieces in this offensive line group that has, because that was the problem with Corcoran, right? You go and you get him, and you had to play him right away, right? You had he had to come in, and he had to start, and he had to play, and it's just like, especially with the offensive line when you're going from high school to college, it's an easy way to stun a person's growth. The fact that they actually can now cycle guys through this and have them properly develop is a massive step forward.
All right, so Pritchett, Spindler, Evans, Lutovsky,
I'm happy with it.
Katula.
I'm
starting
happy.
5 on opening day.
I'm happy. I'm not. None of those guys I look at as, hey, these are bona fide studs or bona fide draft picks or like a guaranteed first round pick, and that's the entirety of this team. But I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm rolling in. I'm rolling with an offensive line that I'm not afraid that the boat is going to sink with a bunch of holes in it. Right? I'm not rolling in with an offensive line though that I know that I'm just going to bully everybody, which is eventually where you want to get. But I know that we're rolling into Cincinnati or rolling into Kansas City, knowing, hey, this isn't going to be a glaring issue.
I like the interior. That's a good interior offensive line.
Spindler was a really good pickup. And
you're going to find out in many different ways he was a really good pickup.
I'm surprised though that he wasn't selected for Big Ten Media Day. I thought that he would have been a really good representation for Big Ten Media Day because he's good at, but in this day and age, I feel like you kind of want to bring a transfer portal guy in front of the media just so they could say, hey, I just got here. It's really good here. I've really enjoyed the adjustment. Like, I feel like it'd be pretty good PR, in terms of trying to get other transfer portal guys of like, hey, look, Rocco Spindler's
They
at
also
Big
may
Ten
not
Media
want
Days.
to, Rocco could get all fired up and say something. I mean, you're bringing 3 guys that are not going to say something you don't want them to say. And you know what?
But what I want Rocco to say something they don't want him to say.
That would go against everything they've done in the offseason.
But
Just keep themselves out of the headlines.
I don't want it for content. This isn't a content thing.
I think it's a content thing.
No, I don't think it's not a content for me thing at all. I want a little bit of fire. I don't want my team to be a bunch of, a-holes or anything like that, but I do want my team to have a little bit of an edge.
I like Nebraska being boring.
No. I'm not saying that they are boring and that they don't need to be boring. I just want a little bit of like, same thing with, I want Nebraska fans in general to be that way too. With just give me a little edge. Give me a little a-hole.
You new here?
Well, I mean, they have edge in terms of how we judge our program and how we watch our program and how we oh my God. I'm talking about in terms of visiting fans and when people like
have you not
Memorial
thrown
Stadium.
an Iowa fan in front of a Nebraska fan lately?
No, I haven't.
Okay. You follow that?
I follow that.
Yeah.
I don't really follow that, if I'm being honest, because was there a fight recently?
You don't think Nebraska fans, anytime an Iowa fan enters a conversation or vice versa, they don't get fired up?
Yeah, for sure. I'm talking like within person, like in stadium, I'm just a little more of an edge, just a little more. People were buying Colorado fans drinks. Just want a little.
How's that have to do with the offseason discussion here?
No, I was just pivoting completely.
Oh.
I was just saying. I was just kind of going on a rant. I just want a little bit. I just want a little bit of an edge.
Because I tell you what, there's an edge when it comes to Iowa. I'm telling you.
I'm glad.
Nebraska will onside kick against Iowa. They're up 40 in the fourth quarter. That is the game that bothered. If they go 1-11 and they only beat Iowa, they would be very happy. Kind of. That's the game that they will tell you they choked away. That game keeps Rule up at night. That's the game that keeps Rule angry, and I'm here for it. And now Rule's starting to get under the skin of Iowa media. That's how they did a whole breakdown of Rule's photo ops. And they're going, is he serious?
Really?
All right. You know what? Look at that. You've owned Nebraska, and now you're all of a sudden getting engaged, and you're like, Matt Rule guy. I'm here for it. Black Friday can't get here soon enough. You don't think, last year the Colorado thing was an internal thing?
Oh.
The Iowa thing this year is an internal thing.
Well,
unfortunately, it comes at the end of the year.
And then there's the whole backlash thing of like the not shaking the hands.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like reverberated.
Rule took that personally, and he had egg on his face, and there's part of it. I mean, that was a ridiculous moment of 26 hours of Nebraska football content talk, but more of Nebraska choked the game away,
big time.
Yep.
Big time. And also too, that's the rival. And I think 6-6, there is a big difference between going 6-6 last season and 7-5 last season. Like that one win,
Yep.
I think, and definitely with a true
Yep.
freshman quarterback, shows way more progress of 7-5 and 6-6. Where at the same time too, like I like it when there's a fire lit, when there's more of a fire lit. And I think UCLA did that, and I think that loss did that as well. And so, not that you need more pressure or motivation when you're doing this job, because it's an incredibly difficult job to do. But I definitely think it accomplished that.
I just saw another. It's July 1. Where are you going for your bowl game? Poll or list?
Who's doing bowl projections right now?
Brett McMurphy, but it's behind a
Brett-
paywall now.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe
I already
I'll-
subscribed to it, so
maybe I'll share my On3 subscription with you. Who is your college football go-to insider?
Me?
Because Brett McMurphy yesterday, because people either quit their job, get a new job on June 30th, and they start on July 1. Brett McMurphy has gone from, was he at the Action Network?
yes.
Okay, when he got let go by ESPN, he went to the Action Network. Now he got hired by On3. Much better writer than tweeter. His tweet game is not as good as his writing game. But he has confused me this morning with his projected 82 teams that'll be playing in bowl games and where Nebraska is.
Including the Bahamas Bowl, which is not in the
he your,
Bahamas.
Pete
is he your-
Thamel. I'm a Pete
Thamel guy?
I like Pete Thamel a lot.
He has his own tweets now.
Are there real insiders in college football when it comes to the coverage?
I think there are less and less.
Bino? Oh,
I
wait.
think there are way less insiders than what there used to be. And I do think the whole, like, there's way less like local media breaking stuff in general, just across college football. Like, I feel like at this point it's pretty rare when you
You're
see
calling
like,
out the Nebraska
I was gonna
insiders?
say-
no, I'm not calling out the Nebraskans. I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm just saying across in general, like, there will be some like other
includes
college
Nebraska.
football
Well,
like insider
no,
tweets, and you're
I-
like, oh, this is a local station
Okay,
out in
so
Spokane.
I'll give you an example. I know where you're going.
Yeah.
So we are July 1. Remember Friday, the fury over Fedor?
Yes.
Okay, so he probably jumped the gun a little bit. And, people are like, hey, he got a couple of years of eligibility. But we haven't really seen anything from Creighton.
Mhm.
And Creighton doesn't like local reporters breaking stories about them. So let's have the
Oh.
Jeff Goodmans and
Yeah.
the John Rothsteins break
Break it.
stories. So let's give that to them instead of the John Walkers, the Matt DeMarinis's of the world.
Which is too bad because they do a hell of a
I'm
job.
not asking Crate specifically, but I don't know why,
You don't
because
wanna
it's not
pick-
just them.
you
There are
don't
other
wanna-
programs
Yeah,
that do
you don't want to pick favorites, I guess.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But
Or you get more run with have a national guy break a story and then
you get-
have Stephen M. Sipple go, confirmed Bo is coming to wrestle at Nebraska, first reported by Pete Thamel.
well, also,
Those kind of things.
I wonder if there's also I would imagine.
Are we going to get a press release on Fedor?
So what's better than
Okay, just
having
asking.
a local reporter break news
They
is
have
just
so
having your
much
own
depth.
player.
They have,
Breaking
they have a
news.
good problem.
They're a
with Creighton.
They're a top 15 team. I'd say
Well, that's
pretty
Happer. I
confidently.
tried. You remember you were in here the other
I-
day. I
yeah.
said he adds to the rotation. You're pretty deep. You got to be top 15. He's like, no.
They have so many players. They're.
It's a good problem to have.
I mean, last year we saw that was actually a formula that was used
Yeah.
by the best teams across college
Yeah.
basketball. If you have 10 guys that can play the game, you're going to be pretty
Yeah.
well off in terms of matchup.
But there's just a little bit of like locals breaking stories. Unless you have like a really good relationship, you go to the national and then you let the locals cover it. But Brett McMurphy, better writer than a tweeter. I think sometimes he gets a little into his feelings about tweeting, and there's too many happy birthdays. Okay, there's too many happy birthdays.
Vegas, huh?
He has Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl,
I'm not a fan.
which I'm going to be a fan of this.
No, I'm not a fan.
I'm a
I'm
fan
listening.
of this.
I'm listening
because
since you two are
It is at
opposite.
12:30 Las Vegas time on New Year's Eve. There will be so many people dressed in red that will be wrecked in Vegas. Plus, that would mean multiple trips to Vegas for locals. Go to the Summer League. Okay.
But
Go to watch the July 22nd Media Day. Go to watch Bud. Go back for the Las Vegas Bowl.
That's exactly why I don't want
Hey,
to go to Vegas.
Busman,
We're
I'm going to be
going-
living at your house.
I'm not. I don't
Hey.
want the Viva La Vegas Skurs. Okay.
Okay.
I'm like
No,
it's too
no,
much
no.
Vegas for me.
But
Where do you want to go?
here's my-
I want to go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's beautiful during that time. They got some really good
No.
golf courses out there. All right. Hopefully, if the weather breaks,
They got good barbecue.
January 2nd?
hopefully if the weather breaks.
It'll
January
be 44 and rainy.
January 2nd, everything is brown, and it's probably like 49 to 54, and it's
Do
cloudy
you
and
think
it's
I can
misty.
get out? I just
And if
wanna-
it's a night game, it's
I want to
colder.
play. I want to play 36 holes in Charlotte, North Carolina, and see Matt Rule get dumped by Mayo. That's what I want.
Now, this is fair.
You
These are
don't
fair
think,
points.
Oh my God! This guy is taking a picture with a boombox and a steer. You don't think he'd be one of the best coaches to take a Mayo
No.
dumping?
Oh, and
No.
Lil Red getting on it.
So Brett McMurphy, Brandon
get behind
Marcello from CBS Sports had his projection was Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. But I don't understand the opponent. So he has Nebraska.
I do.
And they're playing.
Pac-12 Legacy Bowl. They still got that for another year or two. That's why. I thought that
So
too.
he has Nebraska, Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
really
this
a-
is why you
that's
had
really a
BYU
deal?
Colorado last year because they didn't play.
Oh.
So if they don't play in the regular
Okay.
season, they can play in the postseason.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
makes
Nebraska
sense.
hasn't played Washington the first 2 years that they've been in the league.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Get a little revenge for
hey,
the Holiday
hey,
Bowl.
And you get to have one guy that went to the Manning Passing Academy against one that didn't.
Look at that.
They
The
both were
storylines write
invited, though.
themselves.
They both were invited. So last year,
Well, one went and the other didn't.
yeah, but I'm
There you go.
One won one of the competitions. One is one of my up and coming quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
So last year, the Las Vegas Bowl was played between the 6-6 USC Trojan and the 8-4 Texas A&M Aggies. Okay,
It was a banger.
Mhm.
USC ended up winning that game, an incredible fourth quarter comeback.
It actually was a very entertaining
It was
game.
a very entertaining game. I was playing poker that day, and I remember
You can do that in Vegas.
A&M was up a lot, and then and I was conference rooting massively during the bowl season, and so for whatever reason,
I know you
was-
were.
was
That's
up.
just
I was.
ridiculous.
I'm with you.
I was conference.
I hate
rooting.
everybody except my team.
No, I wanted the Big Ten to beat the SEC at any point so the Big Ten could establish that they were, without a doubt, the better conference. And I was still very mad about what happened with the whole CFP ESPN selection show in Alabama. And I wanted the Big Ten to rub it into to A&M. I will never root for certain teams within the Big Ten. I don't give a damn about USC.
What
Like,
about
I
our
don't-
Cats?
What do you mean about the Cats?
What do
Your
we
favorite-
have?
your favorite Big Ten
You got to
team.
root for them.
My second. They're not my favorite. They're not my favorite.
Well,
They're
they changed.
Chicago's Big Ten
Yes,
team.
because I went to Nebraska and I graduated from Nebraska
But you've been more of a fan of Northwestern for longer.
for basketball, not for football. Brett,
Football, you're a bandwagon guy?
you calling me rooting for Nebraska a bandwagon is crazy.
No, I
'Cause-
said Northwestern
Yeah.
for football.
For football, I don't know if I'm
Like
a
if they're
bandwagon.
good, you're going to be a fan. If not, you're not going to be a fan.
I was still watching them when
Matthew
they were 1-11.
Schnurr, McMaster.
They are
2021.
not on the proposed bowl list here.
I don't think they're-
Projections.
I think they'll be better than people think.
All right, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. When did you know that Frank, Bill, Mike,
One of them when they were
Scott.
hired.
when did you know that they were cooked as a head coach at Nebraska?
Probably,
Seeing a lot of these come in via email and tweets.
You could do TO too, right after the Tennessee game in '98. I think he's done.
probably. We got an email.
That would be a
which
good
might
one
be my
about
favorite
TO. I wonder how. Mine would be with TO would be either the Oklahoma game in '90 or the Citrus Bowl. That's the only time I can recall the Nebraska football team openly quit. Was in the Citrus Bowl against Georgia Tech.
Remember you saying
Oh,
that.
I thought you were going to say when you thought that like it was coming to an end. I've seen.
Well, yeah, when he won the championship.
Hey, hung around for 7 more years.
I don't know. Over the last couple of years, do you think we've seen Nebraska teams quit? I don't know if we've seen too many Nebraska teams just
No.
quit. I feel
Team in
like
'90 quit in
I've-
that game in
these-
Orlando. Brutal.
these
Pat Swilling ate them for lunch.
these teams the last
Dome
couple
Patrol.
of years have not been good, and they've had reasons to quit. And I do give them some credit because they haven't.
Yeah.
They really haven't.
All right, we're back with more. We'll do that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Evan Bland will stop by this morning as well on 1620 The Zone. All right, if you missed it, whoa, big voice guy. If you missed it yesterday, the new band from Nebraska, Henry, Dylan, and Deshaun, will be performing in Las Vegas on July 22nd. It is a one-night show, one night only.
Well, they might be back
for
later.
Henry, Dylan, and Deshaun.
They might be back later on New Year's Eve for the Las Vegas Bowl, according to Brett McMurphy. One night only until they're back again for an encore tour to take on the Washington Huskies.
So coming up in the next hour,
That was pretty good. SEC voice.
we will do When Blank Was Cooked at Nebraska.
When blank was effed.
There are some great emails
There-
of people that, like, not just one game. There's a couple of coaches that are like, well, how many do you need? But I'm
going to be honest with you. For one of them, and you know which one, there was 4 that I immediately was like, that one, or that one, or that one. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I did this list and I'm like, God, I was at all of these games.
This is why I want to hear you talk about
one thing yesterday when I was because I was looking up some notes on recruiting after Nebraska got 2 beefers. Start. You got to start in the trenches. You know what? Start in the trenches.
You don't
And
win
then what
without it.
happens is you have a lot of offensive linemen. Do you know this? And maybe this has been mentioned before, but this is the first time that I run across it. Do you know who is the highest rated recruit in the history of Indiana football?
Oh, highest recruit in the history of Indiana football.
Antoine Randall.
Jordan Howard.
Highest rated recruit ever at Indiana.
Jordan Howard.
No.
Peyton Ramsey.
No.
Then Michael Penix.
Sticking with Randall L.
No.
Randall L's a good one.
Deshaun McCullough.
My next guess.
Really?
Yeah, he was a 4-star from right there in Bloomington. He was the highest ranked prospect to ever commit to Indiana football, and now he's going to play his last year of college football at Nebraska.
That is
that widely known? I stumbled across that yesterday. I'm like,
I didn't know.
The Deshaun McCullough who's now at Nebraska that stopped at Oklahoma?
I loosely knew that
That's
he
why.
played at Indiana because I don't look at him as an Indiana transfer. Obviously, I look at him as an Oklahoma transfer, which I don't know. Is that like a great thing to be like the highest rated recruit of like of a program like that hasn't accomplished a lot?
Marlon Lucky is going to come find you.
No, but that's different.
I liked Marlon.
To
Lucky.
be the highest rated recruit in Nebraska history with how much talent that has rolled through Nebraska, that is like oh my God, like, hey, good for you. Like, congratulations. That's awesome. But to be like the highest rated recruit for like Indiana football, I feel like, I don't know, man, maybe there might be other options out there for you.
As we go to break,
At that time.
you want to, because you support all Big Ten teams.
No, don't put that on me.
Look
I
at
was
the
Big
confer-
Master?
No,
Hey.
I was conference
Big
rooting
Ten.
during the
You
bowl
and
season.
You and Tony Petiti.
Yes.
You guys are hanging out together going, you know what? I have no idea, Tony, who those 3 from Maryland are that are going to be in Vegas. I don't, by the way. Who in the hell are those guys?
I haven't seen the list.
But since you're Mr. Big Ten, you hang out at the Big Ten bar in downtown Lincoln. Is that still open?
Yes.
Or is it only open during the football
The
season?
last time I was there, it was open. Shout out Rosie's.
Look at the jump around at the Morgan Wallen concert at Camp Randall.
Was it?
It's pretty impressive. He didn't walk out with anybody on night 1. Night 2, Brett Favre. Nobody from Wisconsin.
Why does that make sense?
Why
if you know,
did he walk out with Brett Favre? That is like
'Cause
that
it's
is a very interesting pick.
Wisconsin. Well,
I was hoping you were going to say Monty Ball. Was what I was hoping.
because Brett would
Can you-
throw
if I were
stools off
famous-
of a balcony.
but there is going to be that reference to that particular Wisconsin running back coming up in the next hour. But in all honesty, the jump around they did at the Morgan Wallen concert at Camp Randall this weekend, banger. And why the hell isn't Nebraska and Wisconsin playing this year? That makes no sense. Back to the Big 12 we go.
I liked yesterday when we were like, if you could make your own schedule, what would it be? And we just combined the Big 8 and the North and the Big 10 West.
About that Big 12, Gary?
How is Nebraska and Wisconsin not playing this year? Come on.
My record against Wisconsin in my lifetime of just when I root against them has to be awful. So I think it's pretty good for everybody involved that Nebraska isn't playing.
All right. When was Frank,
Screwed.
Bill,
Screwed.
Bo,
Screwed.
Mike,
Screwed.
and Scott
Even
cooked
more screwed.
at Nebraska? We'll do that coming up in the next hour. 1620 The Zone. You feel different around here? College sports has changed.
There are too many days. Happy Canada Day. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Happy NCAA Day. July 1 needs a break.
Watch yourself. Matt Cote needs a friend. It's always a day.
Hey, should always be happy.
Yeah.
I'm always happy, but I don't know. I just like
I'm
gotta
not,
spread
but
the
you knew
love a
that.
little bit. Can we
All
not
right.
put Canada? Can we move Canada Day to like July 2nd?
Why?
You know what? I think Canada's taken some strays in the last 6 months. Let them have their day, okay?
They need it. That Toronto Maple Leafs team. I could not imagine being a fan of that organization. The Dallas Cowboys of hockey. It's absolutely incredible.
There
Blue
you
Jays-
go.
Blue Jays got a nice win last night.
Hey, did you see
Started
that?
that series against the Yankees.
All the teams that were underdogs won yesterday, outside of the Phillies and the Mariners.
Hmm?
There's a little fun little fact there.
Pirates are on a heater. They've won 4 in a row.
Yeah, I don't like to hear that.
Should have counted for 2 wins yesterday. I mean, you don't like that.
I don't like it when the Pirates are winning.
What is this, 1991?
They-
You don't like the Pirates?
No, they're in my division.
Beat the Cardinals.
They're not going to catch the Cubs.
I don't like anybody in my division.
Jack
in the
Sparrow
NL
has a
Central.
better
But you
chance
like
of
all
catching
the Big
Cubs.
Ten
Yes,
teams.
I am definitely a hypocrite. I definitely move and flow within the times. and
Go
words.
NL Central.
Hey,
I
no,
told you it'd be the
stop.
best in baseball.
Stop. No, it's
Go
not.
NL
It is
Central.
not the
Yay,
same.
Ellie De La
It is not
Cruz.
the same at all. When we're doing
Hey, O'Neal
stop.
Cruz.
When we are doing pro,
Skeens.
when we're
I
Just
love
hey.
that. I love
No,
that
I hate
Livy.
him.
I
I
love
can't-
that Livy
I
had a
can't
TikTok and
stand
she
him.
was making banana bread last night. I love that
Why do you
recipe.
know that?
Love
Why do you
Christian
know that?
Yelich.
Why do you know that? Why do you know she
Because
was
she's
making
on my
banana
TikTok.
bread?
Because
Why
I
do you know she was making
I
banana
have
bread?
so many
What did you have for
algorithms
dinner
off of
last night?
LSU, of LSU being the College World Series, that I'm still getting anything that is hashtag with LSU.
Nobody should know what a TikTok influencer is having. I don't need to know that you made
She was
banana bread.
making banana bread.
Did it look good? Is she good at making
It actually
banana
did
bread?
look really good.
Warm, low butter in it.
And
Oh,
she explained it well.
Does she put chocolate in her banana bread, or does she like put protein? I imagine I don't think her banana bread tastes that good. I bet it's all protein and collagened up in order for her to keep looking in great shape. She's in great shape. I doubt that she's eating crappy food.
more reason to eat crappy food.
Okay. We're going to tell you when I thought that Frank Solich was cooked in a moment. You might have already gone to the front of the line. What did you say put into banana bread?
Protein powder or collagen. That's what you know. Come on. You know these TikTok influencers and all these people. What they do is they go ahead and they dump a bunch of protein powder in recipes, and they're like, "Look how healthy I am," even though that they probably are crapping bricks.
Into banana?
Man, that would hurt.
Into banana bread?
Into everything. They put protein in everything. These psychos go ahead and they just scoop all this protein into these delicious things. That and cauliflower pizza.
Hey, that can be good.
No,
It's not my
absolutely
go-to,
not.
but if you give it to me, I'm
You're
not
having
eating
pizza. Just eat pizza. Don't do the whole healthy thing. You're trying to be healthy. Eat a salad. Don't eat pizza.
it. Good point.
By the
Either way, I'm equal
By the way,
opportunity.
not all salads are healthy. Just saying.
Garbage salad
Do
probably
you
not the best for you.
think
Strawberry pretzel
do you
salad.
Think, speaking of
Fruit
I
salad.
love
Too much sugar.
happiness. Do you think that Woj yesterday was happy that he's not an insider in the NBA, or he was a little itchy?
I think he was happy.
Started itchy, ended happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like just
Yesterday
a
was-
reflex, but then it's like, hey,
That'd be a diagnosis
But-
from a doctor.
By the way, I want to say this. You know me, Team Shams, but Woj would have never, ever have gone on a broadcast before the playoffs and said, this is going to be the craziest NBA free agency of all time. And then nothing ends up happening. And the craziest thing that happened was Dorian Finney-Smith went to Houston, and the
Didn't
Portland
leave the state.
Trailblazers are sick and tired of DeAndre Ayton, which we already kind of knew.
Who has an incredible career arc since he got his big contract.
He's gotten. Is he just unlikable? It just
the new
seems like
Theo
anytime
Ratliff?
that guy's in the news, it's just people are just hating on him,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
internally.
it kind of gives off that vibe.
Didn't he not go to a game because he was trapped in his driveway with ice? Wasn't that? I think that was a DeAndre Ayton story, which is wild.
Don't drive on ice
Yeah.
if you're not used to driving on ice.
we've had people here
Yeah.
calling for that.
How do you
for
not
good
have
reason.
a heated driveway?
By the way, be
DeAndre
aware of
Ayton?
ice.
A heated driveway. You make all that money. How do you not have a heated driveway?
We had a heated driveway.
Yeah,
We lived in Texas. It was always heated.
You gotta have a heated driveway.
I don't know.
You
I
have
don't
to
know.
have a heated
I also have a question here before we get into when Frank was cooked.
driveway.
Why
I just love the name. of
Why
this
do
segment.
people say half dozen when they can just say 6?
Because it's fancier. It has half dozen has more of a je ne sais quoi.
We waste too many words.
Never say 10 years. Always say a decade. Near a decade. Even if you've only worked 9 years. Almost a decade.
Okay.
You've been
How old
doing,
are you?
You've been doing
I'm just
radio?
past 40.
You've been doing radio for 12 years ago. I've been doing it for over a decade.
All right. This is when Frank was cooked. All right. We're doing this win.
Yeah.
The
When were they
last
screwed?
5 coaches at Nebraska when you knew they were cooked. You can email us. We'll try and get through a lot of these because this is a good July 1
It is.
topic alert. Gary at 1620thezone.com or Matt at 1620thezone.com or on Twitter at Gary Sharp 1620 or at Matt McMedia. The obvious one for Frank, and this is a game, okay? This is not, hey, when Steve Peterson was hired,
Right.
Solich was screwed. Okay? When
Yeah.
T.O. retired,
Yeah.
Solich was screwed. It is by far the 0-1 game. Black Friday, Boulder, Colorado. You don't allow Chris Brown to run for 6 touchdowns on the Black Shirts when the aura of Nebraska ended in Boulder and you're down 28-3. Now, granted, I still to this day think when Crouch scores
Mm-hmm.
in the third quarter and all of a sudden it's 42-30 and Nebraska's got their feet on the ground and the defensive backs who had partied on O Street on the Wednesday before the Friday game all of a sudden woke up and they're like, oh, yeah. People don't talk
Bad.
about that enough. Those
Bad.
guys who were really good that year, they went out on Wednesday night because they're all like, hey, we're going to win the big. And they went out and partied, and then they were crap on Friday. But Chris Brown runs over Nebraska. But once it was 42-30 in the third quarter, being there, because I was a sideline reporter,
You
I
can
was
feel
like,
it.
I was like, ooh, because Crouch was like ticked off. He was like, this ain't happening. And then, they never got any closer. That was, and Frank would go on for a couple more years, that was by far in Frank Solich's tenure when I knew he was cooked because Nebraska football all of a sudden was cooked.
So for me, I like this segment so much because you were there, right? For
Unfortunately,
all of
I was
these-
at all of the cooked games.
for you were there for all of these games. I have, rewatched these games, talked to people about these games, heard all the stories about these games. And so it's like I kind of get a blank slate in a sense to like really take all of this in,
which is good.
and to be
Which is
like,
good.
okay, hey, this is what it is. For me, it's after yours. It's the Oklahoma State game in 2002. So at this point, they lose to Oklahoma State 24-21. It's the team's third loss in the season. Okay, they haven't lost 3 games in God knows how long. Especially like when we're tracking like the TO years, and it was the first time that Nebraska had lost to Oklahoma State in 40 years.
Oh,
They went
I know.
40 straight years
I know.
of whooping a team's ass.
Yeah, that whole year was crap uniforms and people rushing the field to tear down the goalpost. In Stillwater, they played Toby Keith's Should Have Been a Cowboy,
Okay.
as loud as can be,
That's fun.
and walking up, because I happened to, like you're getting the hell out of the
Right,
way.
yeah.
Because here come people. They're coming over the
And you
wall.
said they told you.
Yeah, at Stillwater. That's a
right
good,
on top of you.
That's a good pick. Because to walk up to the locker rooms, you had to walk up the walkway behind one of the end zones.
Sure.
And the door wouldn't open. And so Coach Solich was standing outside.
Oh my God. He couldn't get in?
Well, and you were forced to watch because they were just swarming
Sure.
the field.
And I think too, like, and Frank had the unenviable task of being the guy after the guy. And you have to like carry the tradition. And when you start losing to teams that you used to beat,
Mhm.
I feel like to me that's always an indicator of like, oh, this might be going south. Right? That was when you lose that game, first time in 40 years, 3 losses, you're not even halfway through the season. That's what I think you could legitimately zero in on and be like, all right, this is not going the way that we thought it was. I almost picked
The 0-2 season was a mystery machine.
He says Oklahoma
well-
State. I think Seneca Wallace.
Jesus, look at the end of the 0-2 season. But
Well,
all of a
that
sudden
was-
you're like, College Station. Then my favorite Texas-Nebraska game.
where, okay, that was that game though, like you almost come back. It was a really good comeback.
a
You had
good
the
game.
punt return at the very end of the game. Now, you're hoping that you could have gotten the ball closer to the goal line, so you run it in with Jamal Lord as opposed to throwing it in with Jamal Lord when he throws an absolutely awful interception. I didn't pick that game though because I feel like you could
Oh no, that wouldn't be a game I would pick
No,
as a cook.
Because OSU had happened before then, so your point had been made.
The 02 season
But
was
that K-State game was
It's all
the
about the
nail in the
uniforms.
coffin, too. That was another game where you get your ass whooped by K-State. That was another
The
one
02
that was
game?
picked. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like, that's another one, too, where it's like you had all these years of just whooping up on Kansas teams, and then you lose to a Kansas
Yeah.
team.
I picked Black Friday because nobody had an answer for what had just happened.
And the aura.
And the aura was done. That was a day the Nebraska football died. The Nebraska football, as we grew up, died that day. And I mean, that was in 2001. Now,
you are not the first person to say that to me. You were like the fourth person who said that.
Nobody had answers. I try doing the locker room and the coaches show after that game.
Oh my God.
In the locker room.
Yeah. They gave you Brown. They gave you Purify.
Warren Swain bailed on it.
Really?
Yeah. He bailed on the post game. He goes, I'm not going to be able to make it down because of the fans on the field. Can you interview Frank? Sure. You know what? I always say this to this day. My appreciation level for Eric Crouch is always high. He came to me and he said, I'd like to be on the show.
Wow.
In the locker room. You got all your teammates around.
Yeah.
You know, because you weren't stepping outside the locker room to do any of these interviews. And I
remember, it's
appreciate
right outside that.
I appreciate EC for doing that. Bill Callahan. The day that you knew that Billy C was cooked.
October 13th, 2007.
For me, see, this is
Was
a
it
tough
before or
one.
after halftime?
Halftime. It's 38-0.
So that USC game, like I know that USC was the number one team in the country at the time, but they really like hyped themselves up going into that game. Like they really focused on winning that game.
Big deal.
And worried
Great
about that game.
matchup.
It was a big deal. And then for them to lose that game and get their butts whooped like they did, did not help anybody, did not help anyone in that program. But then I think that led to, once again, I have Oklahoma State. It just seems like they're kind of the coach screws here. 45-14 at home on
Zach
homecoming.
Robinson.
You get your butt whooped right after getting your butt whooped the week before by Missouri, right? Like I think so. I think
it actually turned out to be a great loss for Nebraska.
Yeah,
because you get fired the AD.
Sure. But I think Oklahoma State, I think that was like when you kind of knew this is over. The cupboards are no longer full.
I will go a week sooner.
Okay.
So Nebraska goes to Columbia, and
41-6.
They were ranked, so they still stayed in the polls because I believe
8:00 game on a Saturday night.
I think the 07 season Nebraska actually began the year ranked.
They did. They were 20th in the country.
So it was number 1 against number 14 when they played USC.
Yes.
So even they lost that game because then they won that. Oh, we beat Ball State by a point, and then they beat Iowa State in Lincoln. So they go to Columbia, and Missouri was ranked because that was a Chase Daniel team.
And people thought they were still just pretty good. Missouri, 8-4, respectable.
Nebraska didn't score a touchdown. And Chase Daniel threw for over 400 yards in that game, and Nebraska got crushed. I mean, I think Mizzou had over 600 yards of total offense.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that's the game that I looked at. Now, Oklahoma State was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
But that week before, because that was, hey, you're loyal to your DC.
Yeah.
And
that's when you started feeling sick to your stomach.
I looked at that game and I said, Nebraska is cooked. You don't go to Columbia and not score a touchdown.
That's crazy.
When you are still ranked, and they were in the back, and they're like 25th. That was the game with Callahan. I was like, Callahan's cooked. And then, of course, the next week. Now, they would only win one more game after
little revenge game against Josh Freeman.
Oh, no, it went downhill from there. Chase Daniel had 25 of 43, or sorry, wrong guy. Went 33 of 47, 401 yards, 2 touchdowns, and
pick his nose.
He had 72 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on 11 carries. I mean, absolutely kicked their ass. I think I like yours better than mine because I think the prompt is when were they screwed, right? When was like this trending in the wrong direction? I think your game hits the mark
that
probably more than my game, but my game, I mean, nail in the coffin for sure. The Oklahoma, and you're homecoming, and you're at home, and you're still like, I can't stress it enough with like, and it matters, but like when you are dominant for so long, and you beat all of these teams so consistently, and then you lose to those teams with different coaches. To me, that is like the ultimate panic button. Like that is the ultimate it's the indicator that we are no longer what we were. Because when we were when we were at our top, at our peak, we were kicking these teams' ass.
We were
now
in a
we're
lightning
not.
delay, and I thought I had been overserved when I saw the score. I said, that can't be right. There's no way. They played bad last week. They have to. Oh, that is true. And you see fans in Lincoln leaving early and not coming back.
You could also
That didn't happen
you could
back
do
then.
this experiment or this discussion with athletic directors. When did you know that Steve Peterson was cooked? That game. When did you know that Sean Eichhorst was cooked? Well, when he had an impromptu media session after the Northern Illinois game. You're like, that guy's a dead man walking.
That is so. Shout out the Groin Kick Chronicles that our colleague Josh Peterson is doing. That was one of the games that has popped up in the first 20 that he's done.
The Northern Illinois game?
I did not. The reason why the Groin Kick Chronicles are really good is because I did not know about the impromptu Sean Eichhorst conference. Like it's just like that's just something I didn't know. Crazy that he's just like, all right, I have to address the media here. And then the talking about moving the team off of Black Friday.
Oh, it was a nightmare. But that first quarter against Northern Illinois that year, 87-yard interception return, and then 25 interception return in the same friggin' quarter.
I loved
Les Miles in the booth for
Illinois
that
beat
one.
Notre Dame. They showed off their bone.
Dude, that was awful. That was the third game of the year.
They showed their boneyard. You know, their Northern Illinois has these little bones where they're like, we went to places and upset them. And when they upset Notre Dame and they're showing off their wall, all of Nebraska had PTSD because there was a big bone in Nebraska's N on their wall.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will discuss Bo. We will get to Mike Riley.
Which one?
You cannot submit your game in which you thought Mike Riley was cooked, and it's all 19 losses.
Well,
somebody that's what somebody just did. The Mike Riley one.
This is
one. I knew Mike Riley was cooked when you guys told the story about players that were in the auditorium had to Google who Mike Riley was when they told him who the head coach was.
There are so many stories about that, by the way, of people being like, who?
Oh, there's a couple of players that told Damon and myself that they did not know who Mike Riley was, and Sean Eichhorst announces to the team that their new head coach is Mike Riley. There were guys Googling Mike Riley before they met him to find out who he was.
Chris M emails us. He goes, when did I know? With Riley, it was the moment the story broke that he was the next head coach, and my first reaction was, who?
That's fair.
Michael Severe's got a great story on that, too.
Another polarizing, when did you know they were cooked? For Bo Pelini. It's coming up next on 1620 The Zone. All right, the Players Era schedule has been announced in Vegas. Creighton will take on Baylor at 1 p.m. Central Time on November 24th. And then in the day that is the greatest day of the 365 on the calendar, the 25th of November, which is a Tuesday, Iowa State Creighton will play at 1:30.
Okay.
That is the first
like
part of the
that.
Players Era schedule.
So you're out that day.
J.J. White versus Creighton.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
a little Omaha and Omaha action. Upset the Creighton Blue Jays because he was never given that opportunity to do it as a Maverick.
We're going to do Bo here in a moment. We're doing this exercise of when did you know the Nebraska coach was cooked?
From two entirely different perspectives, too.
Scoot says, was in the press box during Ball State in 07. Knew Callahan was cooked when the Husker staff yelled and acted like they won the Super Bowl all the way down the hallway in the press box after Ball State missed the field goal. Bunch of losers on that staff.
Do you think that yelling when you beat Ball State by 1 point is like, thank God we didn't lose our job yelling? Not necessarily we're so good yelling.
That was a very, very uncomfortable game.
There's been a couple of those.
Well, there's been a guy
over the last 15 years.
Well, wait till we get to the last coach that was fired at Nebraska.
Jeez.
All right, Bo.
Okay, so this is a tough one. I took this as like you knew they were screwed the beginning of the end. I have the 2013 Minnesota game as my kind of, all right, he might be in trouble. And the reason why I have 2013 Minnesota is because so the UCLA game happens and the leak happens and that might be some people's pick of like, all right, that is not a good look and we're trending in the wrong direction. But people do forget like they won 3 games in a row after the UCLA game, and they didn't just win 3 games in a row. They kicked the crap out of South Dakota State and Illinois and Purdue, and they had a really good thing, not a really good thing, but a thing going with Kellogg and Tommy Armstrong. Like they were figuring out how to win games with those two, and Taylor Martinez was still banged up, and it just kind of from the get-go, you kind of knew that he wasn't 100%. They stick him out for the entirety of the game. He has a terrible performance. He goes 16 of 30. They lose on the road to Minnesota 34-23. And I think in that moment, with all of the negativity and the things that were consistently going around with Bo, what got him out of that was that he was just a good coach and he won games and he did what he needed to do. But when you have all of that baggage behind you and then you make a critical coaching error like you do, you lose a lot of trust in that fan base and just people in general that you are what they believe you are. So for me, that was that Minnesota loss at Minnesota. T-Mart shouldn't have been playing. They should have just kept going with Kellogg and Armstrong and given him more rest. Play him against Northwestern the next week when you're at Memorial Stadium, right? So that is the beginning of that's the beginning of, all right, I don't know if Bo's going to be around here this long. And then he ended up getting fired, not at the end of the season, but the end of next season.
Mine would be, and it started the day before this game. So my game, I knew Bo was cooked when they got woodshedded in the Big Ten championship game in 2012.
Okay.
So the day before,
Because I would agree.
So the day before, they had a media session.
Okay.
The 2 head coaches, Bo and Bielema, and Bo made this big deal about. They told him he had to wear a sport coat,
Look nice.
and they asked him to wear a nice shirt.
Okay.
Instead, he went with a mock turtleneck. Okay.
Very Dylan of him.
But he was very uncomfortable. He didn't want to be dressed up. And he got triggered because Bielema walks in. Bielema is in a sweatsuit and has slides on. Okay. So you have these gnarly looking feet, okay, that are just staring at you as you're interviewing Bielema. And they made him take a picture surrounding the Big Ten trophy. Bo was livid. Like he dog cussed a couple of people with Nebraska about, you know what, look at him, look at me. This is he used some term because we overheard his discussion. And I'm like, this is the day before they play in the Big Ten championship game. They found a way to get to Indy, and that's what you're worried about? But that was kind of Bo's tenure. He worried about way too much that had nothing to do with the stuff on the field.
Taylor did have that run that was pretty sweet.
I'm trying to find this picture.
That game, I knew he was cooked because he had defensive players that were starting to privately question
Mm.
if he knew how to run defenses. You already know he gave up 539 yards rushing. Wisconsin set all kinds of records. They lose 70-31 on that stage. And defensive players were like, we were running the wrong defense. Why don't we change? And they got into arguments on the sidelines. And I think guys that had bought into Bo and had bought into playing that kind of defense that he played
Mm-hmm.
were like, this isn't working.
Sure.
We're supposed to be good defensively.
And you're losing trust.
And now you just gave up 70, and Wisconsin, with a jet sweep. Oh, there it goes again.
Yeah,
And
this was an Air
and
Wisconsin.
that's when I said, okay, they're cooked because a defensive guy
Yeah.
all of a sudden got destroyed, and he's got players that are like, I don't think this is the right defense.
Well, and it's shocking too, because you look at the teams that they had beaten that year and the manner in which they beaten them. They gave up 9 points to Michigan. They gave up 14 points to Minnesota. They gave up 7 points to Iowa. It's a defense that had been really damn good all year, and they go ahead and they gave up 70 points to an unranked Wisconsin team who shouldn't really have been in the Big Ten championship game because they were.
Hold on. Look at their quarterback.
They were only there because of other teams got punished. Okay, that's why they were there, and they got their ass whooped. And you can make an argument that game.
Wasn't Kurt Phillips the starting quarterback for Wisconsin in that game?
Yes.
Here's what gets lost. There's two kind of iconic plays in the history of Nebraska football, especially in Bo's tenure.
Sure.
Taylor's run,
Yeah.
and then the Kenny Bell block that just like the Taylor Martinez run in that game,
It was incredible.
but it doesn't get many mention because of 70-31.
I don't know. Don't tell the North Concourse that, because if you're ever in the North Concourse during the summer, they are always playing that game and always playing that highlight. They love that highlight in the North Concourse. They don't have any box scores. I was going to say this 2012 Big Ten championship game is one of the most consequential games in recent history of Nebraska football.
Also on 1620 The Zone,
What happened?
Michael and Damon came to blows.
I did not get told that. I haven't heard about that story. But with that game, you can argue that there may not be another game that changes the complexion of Nebraska football if you win it, other than that game or more than that game. They end up winning that game. They're the
Bo's got a couple of those during his tenure.
Yeah, you're the 2012
Ironically in championship
Big
games.
Ten championship, Big Ten champion. You get to put that right next to the 99. You're the first guy to do it in 13 years. We're back to winning championships, the first since TO back in 97, since we've actually, I guess 99 too, but it's like you're back on the winning path. If they win that game, it doesn't matter who they beat. It doesn't matter that Wisconsin shouldn't.
You won a
have been there.
conference.
It doesn't. You won the conference.
That's the answer to your question. What was the last conference championship?
Bang,
Yeah.
boom,
Isn't that
and
crazy?
you get to hold that up, and it doesn't matter how you cuss or who you're getting after, what you're doing. You go, I'm the Big Ten champion.
Yeah. Three of
Second year in the league.
three times in a 4-year stretch he was playing in a championship game. Couple from Bo for Bo. This comes from Adam. He goes, I know Bo was done when T.O. retired in 2012. Harvey Perlman wanted Bo gone for some time, and T.O. had stood in his way. No specific game triggered it for me. It was just when T.O. retired, I knew it was over for Bo.
So this is a question.
This is so Nebraska football post TO of, hey, when an athletic director showed up or your guy that hired you got fired, you're done. You going.
Look, this is
Matt Rule is special.
I've been able to connect with this Nebraska program and this Nebraska fan base in a certain way because I look at the history and I'm like, man, they really do operate like the Bears, where it's just like they can never hire the two guys at the same time. Like they can never be simpatico with like the GM and the coach and the president and the
That is
GM
deep.
and everything like that.
Well,
like you never
about-
have that nucleus. Where you might have it now.
about 30 years apart, they may have found out. Kellyanne says, I came in late on the rules of this game, but I would submit Carl Pelini was screwed when Carl Pelini was screwed. I think maybe she meant Bo was screwed when Carl got
Pelini-
screwed.
Yeah. I mean, I
Well,
remember.
Much is cooking.
When Carl left, I mean,
Oh yeah.
Bo
And
ran over Papuchis and
And Sandman too, when he was gone as well. That was a big loss. But I think that the thing about Bo though, and sitting down, and I've told you this before, but for me, right, learning about all this, you go back and you watch the games and you look at the results. But I've also sat down with people and I'm like, tell me the stories, tell me the things that I can't read about, right, that occurred. during this tenure. And the conversations with people about Callahan lasted like an hour. And the conversation about Riley lasted like 30 to 45 minutes. My conversation about all the intricacies of what happened when Bo was the coach lasted about 2.5 hours at DJ's and Exarban. And at one point, I say, was this every week? Every week there was something? Every week?
Yes.
You had him, confronting people who were on message boards, where you had him going and yell, you had your quarterback go in the locker room and call his dad.
I remember that.
Like you had like all these, you had a leak from Deadspin.
Harvey Perlman remembers that.
My ex-girlfriend, now wife, was texting me during that game. Lots of F words.
It's just crazy. It's just you sit down and hear these stories. It's like we're still in 2011.
Well, I mean, I always tell
2010.
people that they go, "Hey, tell me about the Bo era before I get into stories." It's amazing that they ever won 9 games in a season, and then I go, "How did they not win more than 9 games?"
It is when you go through the schedules and results, you can see a flow of some coaches of like, all right, hey, this was obviously the tipping point. This is when things start to go south. You cannot read that with Bo.
No.
It's like they beat a team they shouldn't, and then they lose to a team that they shouldn't have lost to.
Yep.
And it's like they do that every year. It's incredible.
Okay, we'll do this one because the last one will probably take a little bit. Mike Riley. Oh, the one with Frost I think will surprise people, and the one that I pick that I knew that he was cooked. All right, Mike Riley. By the way, we're not doing all 19 games.
Yeah.
Just pick your favorite.
Thank you, Ed, into the Equitable Bank inbox. He goes, "Where would you like to start?" And he just sent me 3 years of losses.
So the hammer.
So the first one?
The nail in the coffin was the Minnesota game. Or not the Minnesota game, the Wisconsin game, where you get your butt whooped. Your Wisconsin scores like 60 points at Memorial Stadium. And on that same day, UCF beat Cincinnati by like 30 points, and they were absolutely electric. That was the nail, in my opinion. But what really started it was like, all right, this is screwed. Like, this isn't going anywhere. Is the Northern Illinois game. That is kind of like all right, we're kind of done. We're done here. Like, there's nothing else happening after this. Because to Mike Riley's credit, they're coming off of a 9-win season, right? In his final year as the head coach of Nebraska. So there is that like momentum of, hey, you had that success from last year. Can you parlay it into this year? And I think very early on, you're like, all right, this is kind of maybe what people expected it to be. So I'd say Northern Illinois.
So technically, Riley was done in Bill Moose's mind because Moose got hired later in that year.
Mm-hmm.
So after they got beaten overtime by Northwestern, Moose went outside the stadium and was outside of the North Stadium talking to fans that were leaving, and people were telling him that I'm done. I'm never coming back.
Jeez.
And so that opened up because I think that Moose, when he took over, because their first game was against Purdue, and they won a 1-point game in West Lafayette.
25-24. Good call.
The Moose was at least receptive to making this work, but then his eyes opened on that Northwestern game.
Yeah.
And he was out in the parking lot and he was asking fans, he was greeting fans, and people were like, "Riley sucks, you got to go." Mike Riley was cooked in a night game against Ohio State in the middle of that year.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They got beat 56-14. JT Barrett led an offense for Ohio State. They scored on their first 8 drives of that game.
They could have scored 100 if they wanted
Nebraska, with Bobby Diaco, gave up nearly 700 yards of offense, and it was absolute dread going into a bye week.
God.
And I knew that he was cooked because they'd already lost the week before at home to Wisconsin. They got beat by 21, but that was also a game where you remember the special teams were just a debacle. But they got absolutely crushed by Ohio State, and they got laughed at. And I'm like, he cooked, he gone. They would win one more game, that Purdue game, and then they would not win again.
JT Barrett's going to be a name in 10 years that you're just going to say, and everyone's going to be like, oh, JT Barrett. I mean, when he was at Ohio State, he was the truth at Ohio State. 27-33 that game, 325 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. What's even more startling, though, Nebraska had 16 rushing attempts that game. Do you remember how many rushing yards they had on 16?
They didn't have the ball very much.
17.
44 yards
Yeah.
on 16 rushing
Yeah.
attempts. That's, I mean, 2.8
Wasn't
yards
bad.
per carry.
Uh,
Atrocious.
Back to Mike Riley, and then we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about Frost. Tom says, where do you even start with Mike Riley knowing it wouldn't work? Take your pick from the 5 one-score losses in the first year, getting blown out in 3/4 or 3/4 in 2016 and losing to NIU in 17. So many options. In my opinion, it could be 2015 Illinois. Came across a flashback of that game the other day and just mind-boggling.
It's incredible.
That's fair.
When,
Yeah,
that
there
was
was
bad.
the third down play in that game and the wind and the pass. And then there is the repeated defensive pass interferences on the fades in the end zone. And yeah, Adam said earlier, he goes, oh, I knew Mike Riley was cooked opening day against BYU on the Hail Mary. I mean,
See, the one thing though, and I'm not, because I don't want to get in the weeds on it, but Mike Riley did win 9 games in one season. So looking back, when it happened then, it was like okay, finally. Like it's never taken this long. It's never taken anybody this long to win 9 games for Nebraska. So thank God you did it. It's funny though now how we look back at it now, like 10 years later, being like, oh, that was actually an accomplishment because Nebraska hasn't been able to do it since.
Thank God for that late September, early October schedule. 2016.
Where you play Maryland.
Well, I mean, now you peel back the layers of Oregon. In 2017, you go,
That was the last ranked win, though, for Nebraska. It was 9 years ago.
All right. When was Scott Frost cooked?
Jeez. How much time do you have?
We'll do that when we come back on 1620 The Zone. What if we did this little discussion about we don't like to lose,
Mm-hmm.
but actually the best losses that benefited Nebraska? Because I'm going to give the one that keeps coming back when Billy C was cooked,
Yeah.
the Oklahoma State game at halftime. That actually is like the loss that now later we can all celebrate because they got the AD fired.
Mm-hmm. I think the problem is that the losses that help Nebraska are the ones that get people fired and are a signal of like, oh, this didn't work out. And once again, you had a bad hiring or a bad situation. I would like Matt Rule, like we've talked about the UCLA loss.
I'm glad UCLA happened last year.
Exactly.
UCLA is the best thing that happened to Matt Rule.
But I'm glad we're looking
Otherwise,
back.
that could have been it.
But it also could be the game that I knew he was cooked.
It could be.
But it could be. But the UCLA loss is the best thing that's happened to Nebraska football recently.
They've reset. They completely reset after that game. But I'm glad there's a loss where it caused them to reset within the program, and nobody like the head coach didn't get fired. You know,
Crossroads.
AD didn't get fired. It was just, oh, this was bad. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And so they had to go and get Holgo and have him come in and be the offensive coordinator.
Who?
People call him Holgo. I was going to see if I could put that by you.
Let's just go with Dana.
I like Dana.
Okay.
DGA.
Let's go Dana.
People call him Holgo.
Well, yeah. So I dropped that DGAF.
I still think
then you
of
have
that
to
now.
explain it to people, and then once you get to the F, people are like, "Oh,
don't give
Very
a
awkward.
flip."
yes,
Okay,
As Coach
Yes.
Self would always say.
yes."
man, stud. He's a
Knoxville,
he's a stud.
Chris, Wisconsin, 2014. Mike Riley, 2017. Isn't the Minnesota or Mike Riley Minnesota 2017? Isn't that the game of the Moose in the suite going, "Oh no"?
Yes,
Okay,
that is that game.
And then we are in agreement on the day that I knew that Frost was cooked. I want to read this email. First of all, let me make sure that's nothing. Okay. So I'll let you go first on
Okay,
the game that you knew that Scott Frost was cooked. Joe, let me read this email quick.
Go ahead.
And the EchoBank inbox this is from Joey. I knew when they got back from Ireland and you heard about the underage players drinking before the game and a meeting by parents with the AD about Frost. Then there was a phone call to this radio show. Yeah. Okay. That's not mine.
That came in second. Okay. What came in second place was the moment they did the onside kick. Like the moment
That's
it
fair.
happened, I was like, this might be over. This might be done. Like
They did what?
He is exactly like he is acting crazy. Like this is ridiculous. But it's a close second to, I think, the most infamous game that I have ever watched in my entire life, and that I talk about all the time because it still is baffling to me.
Man, there's a lot of them.
Michigan State 2021. Like that loss was the moment where you're like, all right, maybe this isn't going to work out. Like maybe he isn't the prince who was promised. Maybe there is like an actual issue going on here and they are just not going to close out this game. Because how do you lose to a team that didn't have a first down in the second half? They didn't get a first down in the second half and they lost. Like
That is impressive.
that was, and like Oklahoma, you were like, all right, that was the special teams crapping all over themselves, but at least they were competitive in Norman against a very good Sooner team. Like there was a little bit of hope there. You lose that game, any sort of like moral victory, hope, trust, whatever you want to call it, was gone. It was out the window. So that was the Michigan State game. Is like, all right, this is, and then they beat Northwestern by 49 points the next week, and it reinvigorated. Like, all right, hey, maybe we're heading on the right direction, and then you kaplow against Michigan.
So I've always used the phrase, Scott didn't have the tools in the toolbox to be the head football coach at Nebraska. Same year.
Okay.
21.
Okay. There was a little bit of hype coming into that season.
Yeah.
Because you thought, okay,
Got through COVID.
they've got through COVID. Not a bad roster.
No.
They've fixed some of the things that ailed them, you thought. there was a nice little buzz going into the 21 season
Mhm.
because, all right, year number 1 rallied. Year 2, I'll give you a break for COVID.
Yeah.
But now it's technically year 3.
You're excited by
knew-
Adrian, and
I knew that he was cooked on opening day
Yeah.
in Champaign, Illinois, because there was hype going into that,
And the optics
And-
after it too.
and your veteran players
that was bad.
effed up, whether it be Cam Taylor-Britt,
Ugh.
whether it be an Adrian fumble in the second quarter. But then how I knew he was cooked because nothing was different was Nebraska was down 21 in that game. And then they come all the way back. And they have a chance in the last minute to possibly score and tie the
Yeah,
game. Now, it would have
yeah.
taken a 2-point conversion. But what was the lesson during Frost's tenure is close losses. So you're waiting for a moment where, tell me it's different.
Yeah.
And we thought 21 at the beginning would be a little bit different. And they open up against a team that has a brand new head coach and it scrapped everything they were going to do.
Dead atmosphere, 2:30 game in
Nobody
the heat.
gave a damn.
And
Nobody
and
cared in Champaign.
your veteran guys let you down in that game. They did not play very well. And then it just reiterated the point in the post-game press conference that man that was the head football coach we weren't even to September. It was August 28th.
Yeah.
That guy was absolutely cooked as the head football coach at Nebraska because of the comments he made about what Illinois did that Nebraska could not do. And that is a
Right there.
head football coach who is a very smart football guy
Yeah.
when it comes to X's and O's and that kind of stuff and scheming. It just, there's things that are in the way. The comments he made about what Illinois did, that they had to throw out the playbook, I was like,
You
Yeah.
can't, you
hey, going.
you can't adjust to a different front. You
Yep.
can't adjust to, it's in cover 3 now.
Coach, there's 3 men on the
we
line.
can't- Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, you can't, and I'm not going to act like
Fucking
I know
me.
the inner workings of a football sideline, and I know how all that you can just make like I've never been in that situation before as a coach, right? But you have to imagine that if they come out in a different front, that you could say, "Hey guys, we have to go in this locker room and we have to figure out some concepts and plays and just like we have to come together. This is a fire drill. We didn't expect this. Let's go out. Let's solve this problem because our jobs are on the line. Our record is on the line. We have a good team. We could start off the season well." And they didn't do that. And then he comes out in the press conference and says he doesn't do that.
That was alarming.
Crazy to be like, yeah, they did something we didn't expect and we didn't adjust.
I love that during this little hour of highlighting
misery.
highlighting the last 5 head coaches in Nebraska, there is not like a general consensus. Everybody has their favorite game when they're like,
No.
you're not going to work out.
I could argue 19 Ohio
Let's
State.
go to Flight Tracker.
That was great. The flight track. God, I do miss the tweets about this guy landed here and this guy's getting on a plane here, and then a Twitter account you've never seen before is like, I have sources that are telling me Hugh Freeze is on the way to Lincoln,
Trust me, bro.
which I don't think that happened. I was just throwing out a name there, but
And the next thing you know, there's a guy that drives from Charlotte to a remote part of North Carolina to meet. And you're like, why are Auburn guys sending us screenshots of the path of this plane? I wonder if Auburn is there meeting, or I wonder if it's Trev Alberts that is meeting. And then the next thing you know, guy sneaks into town in disguise and checks out the situation. And
the
now he's
Illinois
going into year number 3. And we might have to decide in year number 3, what game in 2025 is the game that you knew that Rule was cooked?
I hope not. I do have a candidate that could
Cincinnati?
I think Michigan State is a legitimate candidate.
Cincinnati would be mine.
They lost against Cincinnati. Be like,
Just because of some of the things the commenters on the stream said
Matt.
last week.
Matt, come here.
I'm coming.
No, wrong, Matt.
That's too easy.
All right, there's some great interaction here. Calvin, the Adrian broken jaw game, which is Michigan State.
Yeah.
Eric says Georgia Southern was the game for me.
Well,
You know what? It was the game for him.
That was a fun overreaction, by the way.
I have
not on that one.
I have to
I
go
thought
to
you were. I thought that's
need
the one
to
with the
find a
Xbox.
No.
you need to send me a BROR archives of like before I go ahead and
They're
do
in the
Big
computer.
Red overreaction. I got to go ahead and listen to some of these Big Red overreactions, the famous ones.
Husker Country coaches can be cooked when they lose their first game. For Frost, with a defense that had 8 sacks against Colorado, and you still lost?
I don't know. The Cincinnati game, but I think the Michigan State game could, if they get past Cincinnati, the Michigan State game is primed to be a quick game.
John says Riley was done when the hip hip hooray was going on in the locker room.
Is that what losing sounds like? That's what losing sounds like.
All right, college football season 53 days away, I think. Farmageddon, week 0.
58 days away from Nebraska, Cincinnati.
Yep. Also, I think in college football, we need to, I think Army-Navy holds us back. The Army-Navy game. I'll explain sometime before kickoff in August.
Well,
come on. That's 53 days. I'm going to be out in like a month.
Hey, the Army-Navy game holds us back in movement in college football.
Because of the scheduling?
I'll tell you before the season begins.
Okay.
That's a
Great
tease.
What a tease.
Last hour's upcoming. We'll catch up. Lots of emails, tweets. Like God, you enjoyed that. Dave and Gary, stay right there. Also, Evan Bland's going to stop by in 1620 The Zone. We're going to get some calls here. We're going to have them land in the next segment.
Yeah.
Did I see yesterday that Nebraska-Minnesota volleyball is going to be in the middle of a doubleheader of football on NBC?
I did not see that.
So Notre Dame Navy is going to be at night. There's going to be a Big Ten afternoon game or a 11 a.m. kick game, and then Nebraska-Minnesota volleyball is going to be it's going to be the
lead-in?
cream filling on the Oreo of football on NBC on the 8th of November.
Cream,
Is that right?
Cream filling.
Yeah, an Oreo.
Yeah, the middle.
It's not
Cream.
like filling though.
Yes, it is.
It's like the middle.
We don't have to.
fill it
this
up.
Is, this
Fill
is
up the
an argument
cookies.
we don't have to get into. It's not filling. Okay, it's sandwiched in between the two.
So it's cream,
It's filling when it's fully encompassed, when it's fully circled, when you can't
like the
see it.
cupcakes.
Yes,
with the little
like
ribbon
a
on
donut. That's cream
Okay.
filling.
So what is this?
This is just a layer of a sandwich. You don't call
That
it,
sounds boring.
you don't call turkey. You know your turkey in your sandwich. You don't call it turkey filling.
I don't
You call it
I
a
don't
slice
look
of
at
turkey.
an Oreo as a sandwich.
It is a sandwich. An Oreo for sure is a sandwich.
Oh wow!
It is a cookie.
Oh.
Did we just open up a?
It is a. It is.
Never mind about the Nebraska football
is-
coaches down.
What are you talking about? An Oreo is without a doubt a sandwich.
We need to start the crossover
An
now.
Oreo cookie is a sandwich?
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Then what's a
two-
hot dog?
It is two separate wafers. Well, that is a hinge. The hinge of the hot dog bun stops it from being a sandwich. The Oreo is two separate pieces that are connected between something in the middle, right? So as opposed to it being bread, it's two wafers and in the middle is cream. And so it's a.
That's
it's a
you
cream-
just answered my
but
question.
not
What is it? It's
filling.
cream.
But it's not
not
filling.
filling. It's
But it's not
cream.
filling.
It's
But
just cream.
But it's cream. It's a cream sandwich.
We at least somehow met in the middle.
It's a cookie sandwich.
Save this for the crossover. Holy.
It is a sandwich. There's two set. There's
you
three
have
pieces.
officially arrived at 1620
There's
the
three
zone.
pieces.
I'm telling
of
you,
an
he's been
Oreo.
cooking already this week.
3 pieces of an Oreo. It's a sandwich.
To be honest, I've never heard
I
somebody
can hear
refer
Happer
to,
just warming up right now.
somebody refer to an Oreo cookie as a sandwich.
It's a sandwich. What's the difference? You know, the Townhouse ice cream sandwich.
Okay, can I go to Jersey Mike's
And get an
order
Oreo?
an Oreo cookie?
Okay. Can you?
Can I order? Is that up on the menu next
it
to
is
the
not-
roast beef?
The secret menu, Jerry.
Just because
Secret menu.
there are things that just because it's not on the menu of a sandwich shop doesn't mean it's not a sandwich. Okay. This is it. What is a sandwich? A sandwich is two parts coming together with another part in the middle. That makes it a sandwich. Okay. Two
Okay.
separate. There's two different wafers that come together. It's not a
Man, if
cook-
there was
it's
ever a bat
it's a
signal for
sandwich
Michael
cookie.
Severe to weigh in, this
It's a
would be it.
sandwich cookie. Charles in the chat goes, "Buckle up, here we go."
Just to save it for the crossover.
Okay.
Sandwich
Okay.
has to have meat.
We're just going to save it for the crossover.
A sandwich does not have to have meat.
I'm so listening to this crossover. I can't wait.
It does not have to have meat. A sandwich is a construct. Okay. It is not necessarily a set in stone thing.
I mean, you might have a point with like veggie subs and whatnot, but
Okay.
wow.
Chris writes in to the Equitable Bank inbox. If there was a Husker fan who fell into a coma following the 98 Orange Bowl and
Jeez.
that person woke up today, how do you even start to explain how Husker football is where it's at?
You start with pain. You
Did
say
T.O. come out of retirement at least?
pain, a lot of pain. You just say
Okay.
that.
All right.
You go. You'll have. He goes. If they just came out of a coma now. You're like, I don't know if you're really in tune with Penn State 1997's roster, but there's was he on 90? I think he was on 97's team. There's a walk-on that was on that roster. He's now the head coach of Nebraska.
Here is Gary. Gary, thanks for holding. Good morning on the Prairie Flower Casino Hotline.
Wow, you guys are pretty desperate talking about Oreos and making sure it's a sandwich.
I
Nope,
don't think we're desperate.
Nope.
Holy
Gary,
moly.
Gary, it's just you and I. You and I, we're here.
Okay.
G
I'm
squared.
sorry.
All right.
I just.
Well,
have
I was
to get
on my way home
opinions
from
out.
therapy and turned the radio station on. It's been a while, so I thought I'd give you guys a holler and wish all you guys a
Thank you.
fantastic 4th of July weekend.
You as well, my friend.
That's it.
And how's the golf game? That's
Uh,
all I got right now.
All
It's,
right.
it's
All right.
the summer.
It's
I
off
can't
season.
get in.
Yeah.
Gary,
I
Gary,
was wondering how your golf game is.
Gary, my golf game, it's developing. We've had a 2-week break for the CWS, but we'll pick it back up. Head down, been really good. Been bringing back the club completely straight, been dropping the hands. Iron striking has been subliminal. Just got to
Awesome.
make sure that the putting is a little bit better, but I appreciate your question.
All right.
All right,
I'm
Gary.
jealous. So
Yeah.
So you guys take care, and I'll see you in football season.
See you,
All right,
Gare.
Thanks. All right. We'll check back with you in about 6-7 weeks. Here is Dave. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, fellas, good to talk to you.
Good talk to you.
I think the downfall of Frost was the Maurice Washington scenario, that he lost his team that day that he played him. I know the charges were still pending or due process and whatnot, but the fact that he dressed and played that first game of the season after all those charges were levied on him, he lost his team that day. Because where's the accountability? If a player can do that and still play, why would any other player care what the coaches said at that point?
That's the very valid point, Dave. I had not thought about that particular incident that he did play. You're onto something there. Yeah, just there were a lot of mixed messages like around Mo on things that were allowed to happen and weren't allowed to happen, and accountability. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
That's a good call, Dave.
I always tell my, I'm working athletics, and I'm actually Dave from North Carolina. There's never been a successful team ever that hasn't had accountability as part of their program, and that day accountability went out the window.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that was a problem. Dave, thanks for the phone call. Thanks for listening in North Carolina.
There's a whole host of things that happened during that tenure that we have since heard that definitely altered things internally within the program, that definitely affected things that happened on the field. And I will say this, when I knew people who were a part of the transition from being being in the department, in the football department with Scott Frost, and then Matt Rule came in, right?
Mhm.
And they were still there. And in those first couple of weeks when Matt Rule arrived, immediately it was different. And immediately it was like, this is a different standard. This is a different culture. This is a different program. And some people were like, wow, we are working so much more than we had ever like before. And we're operating in a way that we haven't operated in, but it felt right, And I think that says a lot about how Matt Rule operates. And I think it says plenty and all you need to know about what was going on before Matt Rule got here.
A sandwich?
It is a sandwich. Sandwich is a construct. It's two separate. Okay, so they bake one wafer, and then they put something on top of that wafer.
I'm sorry, I'm
And then
late.
they
The poll's
take-
going up now.
And then they take another wafer, and they
I'm
bake
listening.
that wafer.
I'm not
and
shutting
they
off this. I'm
put
listening.
that, and they put that wafer on top of the cream sandwich that was previously on top of the first wafer that they baked.
Okay, so it's
what
a
is the
cookie-
difference?
It's a cookie sandwich, not as a.
But it's a sandwich. A sandwich is a sandwich. Okay,
Not all sandwiches are created equal.
But a peanut is a part of the pea family. They're the same. A peanut and a pea are cousins. They're a part of the pod family. Okay.
What?
Yes, look this up. A peanut is a part of the pea family because it's a pod.
Man, I gotta lay off the drugs.
Okay, so they are related. An Oreo is definitely related to a turkey sandwich because you bake.
Okay, on that moment, let's get to Knoxville, Chris.
Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Good, Chris. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. I got to tell you, I know I told you before, but we got to get you a podcast, man, where you talk about your time with Husker Sports Network and your stories you have, because it would be huge. I'm telling you, it would be a big deal. But my question is, we're talking about Bo and some of the things that he was kind of like, we have no tolerance level, but then things go off and some players do some things and get in trouble, and others don't get in trouble. 2009 in Ndamukong Suh, I think when he got in that car incident, the fear was he was out doing things he shouldn't have been doing. But I think, am I mistaken that he said he hit a cat, or he was trying to avoid a cat or something in the road? Is that what the call was, or the incident was?
I don't remember this.
An Ndamukong Suh car incident
with a cat?
Yes, in 2009 there was a problem where.
Oh, okay. So he hit. Was it he was found negligent? Didn't he hit some parked cars?
Yeah, and
Okay,
his
okay,
excuse
now-
was he was trying to avoid some kind of
Okay.
animal in the road, and immediately fans thought, "Oh my God, he got a DUI."
Okay. Yes.
But the cover-up was that do we really think? I mean, learning that Bo did cover for some players eventually later on, do you really think Sue maybe got away with something there?
In that incident with the car?
Yes.
I don't think so. Because he also so from what I understand, it wasn't the first time that Sue was like in an accident. Sue may just be a bad driver.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
he is a big guy. It probably is tough to, sit in a seat and get it adjusted the way that you want to get it adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now I've found this. So he crashed his Land Rover into 3 parked cars. Yeah. Estimated $10,000 in damage to his vehicle, $8,000 each of the 2 vehicles he hit. Polini said he disciplined Sue for the incident.
And I don't think anything came of it at all as far as off field. And was it pretty close to the end of the season? We're getting close to the Texas game, or was it more mid-season?
Boy, it was. Oh God, It was November, I think. I think it was
Okay.
November of that year. So like a couple of weeks before they played in the Big 10 or the Big 12 championship game.
Okay.
Chris,
But no,
okay.
again, back to my point before,
Yeah.
Gary, podcast, you got to do it, man. Get your stories out there from your time. I'm glued to you guys when you guys talk about your past time of the memories. I always wondered what happened in that locker room in 01 on Black Friday. What was the theme like there? And that alone would make a great episode about what happened kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well,
That would be a good
Oh, I would
pod.
eat that up.
That would be a really good pod. Because,
tell you about the only time Dan Alexander would do an interview with me is if he was naked.
well, not that. Maybe we can X-nay that out. But there are very iconic moments that you were there for, that you were, and you.
So I will. So
And
one
you-
quick here because we
Sure,
gotta.
go ahead.
And I'm gonna. Somebody is on your side here about the sandwich thing, which is just gonna break the internet and the crossover. The difference in locker rooms. Frank's last 2 trips to Boulder in 01. So the game ends. Colorado fans run on the field. Everybody gets off the field really quick. The locker rooms were small. The guy that was running security for Nebraska ushers everybody in. And so I had a setup. Frank tells the team, basically doesn't say anything. It's dead silent. And then trying to do that post game. And then 2 years later, which is his last game, where the security grabs all of the important people and keeps out Peterson and a couple of other people from the athletic department. Like the cop shut the door. And he's like, nope, not today. Because Peterson was waiting on the walkway up to the visiting locker room. And, players were excited coming off the field. They just beaten Colorado. I think they saved Frank's job.
Yeah.
Frank blows right by him. Doesn't look at him. Peterson tried to shake his hand. It was kind of like the TO to Callahan. But this was after a win. And Frank walks right by him. And then the assistant coaches were coming down from the press box. And, people were saying stuff. So inside of, everybody's ushered in the locker room. And, they tried to get in there.
But and
then-
they locked the door
then
on his
Frank,
boss.
Then Frank had a, you could tell how emotional he was because the guys played for him. And it was pretty heartfelt. It was just two different locker rooms from 01 to 03.
You are a very good storyteller, and you have also never met a stranger in your life. And I just think that I'm not trying to put on your plate to do a 20 episode podcast, but I do think it'd be incredibly entertaining.
I'd love to sit down with Frank.
I think
we tell Frank stories.
That'd be great. Do honestly, what if we got, we just did the whole, the 5 coaches when were they cooked? You should get all 5 coaches and do an interview and be like, when do you think you were cooked? Hey, Bo, when were you screwed?
Yeah, Scott won't return my call. So I sent an email to his SID.
But those guys would not say the game, though. They would say stuff that had
Right.
nothing to do with losing
that we
a
don't
game.
know.
They would be like,
Or that some
well, you know what?
That's a
when,
great
when we
point.
went through the whole contract BS, okay, thank you, Frank. Callahan would be, well, when, T.O. gave me the ultimatum. Okay, thank you.
And what, you think Scott would be like, well, COVID, we were going to be great and we were going to be really, really good. And that kind of
Minnesota
just
game.
game over.
I think Scott would say something about Trev.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say to Scott, he didn't
Scott
force
might
you
say-
to onside kick. against
Scott might
Northwestern.
say, the day that Trev got hired, I was effed.
Oh, sure.
I didn't have I didn't have enough of a buffer.
He
But
got
that's
yeah.
those are, they would not say in particular games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't.
All right, finish this here. This is from Jerry.
Okay.
Yes, Oreo has always been known as a sandwich cookie.
Yes.
Not a sandwich. You're comparing it to a turkey sandwich.
A sandwich
compare-
is a construct. A sandwich is
Like
is symbolistic. It's a principle.
Yeah.
It's
A
an
bread-
idea.
You had thank you, Jimmy.
Oh,
It's
I'm
an
being very
idea.
sarcastic.
No, it is an idea. It is an idea.
Jerry
though.
writes in.
It is two separate things that are the same that are come together and they clasp something that's in the
That looks
middle
like
of
something
them.
else.
Sometimes it's tomatoes and lettuce and turkey,
They can-
and in this time it's
They,
cream.
They can be a cookie sandwich, but not compared to a turkey sandwich.
It's their cousins. They're cousins. An Oreo is a sandwich.
but not a turkey sandwich.
No,
Which
but-
sounds
and a turkey
delicious.
sandwich is not an Oreo. A
No.
square is a
People forget.
a rectangle.
So I've talked to you from comparing both of those.
no, it's a sandwich. You're not going to stop
So
me. It's a
Oreo
sandwich.
and turkey are in the same family.
yes.
Okay.
Poultry.
Jerry also says, have you ever never heard of an ice cream sandwich? Yes.
There you go.
An Oreo, but
Ooh.
he says a sandwich is a sandwich.
Mm.
I disagree. I don't think all sandwiches are created equal.
I
A
think they
metaphor
are.
for unity.
Okay,
says
when they say
Charles.
on the nutrition chart there at your old little elementary school,
Yeah.
okay, you got to have, this is what we're going to have for a sandwich.
Sure.
You know, they don't give you the ice cream sandwich. The ice cream sandwich is special. They give you the regular sandwich like the turkey sandwich or the ham sandwich.
Matt, you're not allowed around
Hey.
the unborn child.
Do you think Eric Crouch would have been fined by the NCAA
If
if he would have had an ice cream
Oreo?
sandwich compared to a turkey sandwich?
probably
or
still,
a ham
yes.
sandwich or whatever the hell he had.
You know what? If Libby Dunn, if she cut her banana bread into two different slices and then put something in between the two slices of banana bread, she would have had a banana bread sandwich.
So an Oreo is a cookie sandwich.
It's a sandwich though. It's a sandwich.
Another Jerry ponders here, as now everybody's head has exploded. Only show that has talked about Oreo being a sandwich and what game was your coach cooked?
A very chef theme on today's show.
This might be on the best of.
I would, by the way, we don't have time to get into this, but
No, Evans.
I would be
waiting.
curious about what people would say the game that Tim Miles was cooked. Think about that. Because Jerry says, here's another question. Is there really such thing as an open-faced sandwich? Think about it.
Oh, great question. Yes,
Then is it
there
really a
is.
sandwich? That's a great point.
What I mean, yeah, it's just open faced. So an open faced Oreo.
And who's
You
the
can
governing
have-
body that
you can
decides
have-
this?
When you take the wafer off, and if you just eat the wafer, and then you're there with one wafer and the cream, showing out, that's an open face Oreo.
So if you were going to a tailgate and they
Yes.
said, hey, can you bring sandwiches?
You're going to bring
Okay.
And you
Oreos.
brought Oreos, what would be the reaction?
Okay, so you just put baby in a corner.
Okay, Evan Bland's coming up next. I just asked a question. Save it for the crossover.
I have to think. I got to go to my lawyer. I got to talk to my people.
It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Let's talk to our good friend, Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald. Thanks for adjusting here. Is an Oreo a sandwich? Yay or nay?
Is an Oreo a sandwich?
Yes.
No.
Damn it.
It's not. Maybe that seems like a spirit of the law, letter of the law sort of conversation. So yeah, there's an item between two other items, but no, it's not a sandwich.
What if I told you though that it says on the packaging sandwich cookie? Would that change your mind after consulting with my people?
Well, a sandwich cookie is different than a sandwich.
But it's the same word, Evan. It's the same word. Would they not be related? Same corporation, different division.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's the idea, the concept, I suppose, is similar, but no, it's like an ice cream sandwich, right? Do you want an ice cream sandwich or do you want a sandwich? I think those are you're talking about the same words, but it's different. I don't know. The essence is quite a bit different.
I just think we all can come to agreement that sandwiches are constructs. Okay, that's just what we're going to end at. We'll end it there.
We've had a little fun here today of when did you know that a coach was cooked? And we've gone through the last 5 coaches. So we've done particular games, but there also are in moments like when their boss got hired that did not hire them. They knew they were done. So we had Bill Byrne and Tom Osborne. And even though they butted heads a little bit, that worked. Now let's fast forward 30 years. Why do you think, and we're a year into the marriage, so we're still maybe on a little bit of a honeymoon, but we're fast forwarding out of the honeymoon phase. Why do you think that Dannon and Rule, that combo will work?
I think they're just wired very similarly. Like I think both of those guys have such an ability to get into the details as needed, but they also have an ability to be as big picture as they have to be. And I mean, just think about all the changes in college athletics in the last 5 to 7 years. And like those guys are willing to adjust. Like none of them, you look at like Troy Dannon's rise from, high school, governing body of girls athletics in Iowa to his ascent to AD at Northern Iowa and beyond. Like he was a guy who was sort of, an unconventional candidate, but figured it out because of his ability to come up with ideas and be creative. I think Matt Rule is sort of the same thing. Like nothing was handed to him. He found a way, and he was a dynamic as a speaker and in how he put staffs together and was very committed to his own kind of sense of ideals. So like, I think those two guys, if they were, CEOs in some company together, if they were working, whatever at a local business, at a church, like I just think they're wired in such a way that they can sit down and say, let's figure this thing out. I don't think there's a ton of ego there. It's all about like, let's have the best idea win. And again, you can get as granular and as detailed as you want, or you can move big picture. And I would add the competitive piece as well. Like I think they understand why they're here. This is about Nebraska. It's about winning. It's not about, their own personal legacy or whatever. I think the idea of like servant leadership is pretty strong with both of them. And so, yeah, I just think they're wired similarly, and they're coming together at a time in college sports when the qualities that they have, I think, are at an all-time high in terms of just their importance.
Gary and I we were talking about, like Gary had mentioned, when was your coach cooked? And when we got to the end of the convo, Gary said something that was very true. He goes, if we were to ask these coaches personally, when was the moment where maybe things weren't trending in the right way, they wouldn't necessarily bring up games. They would bring up moments, that things that happen off of the field, interactions that happen off the field, decisions that happen off of the field. You look at Dannon and Rule, and it's almost as if, that Dannon has given Rule the keys to the kingdom, and he's allowed him to do what Rule wants to do, and there really aren't a ton of excuses for Rule to make in terms of how he's built this program. Why do you think it's been so rare to have that at Nebraska over the last couple of years?
Well, I think some of it has to do with the constant turnover. You haven't had a lot of situations where AD and coach have been the same for multiple seasons because the wins haven't been there. They haven't been able to have that time to build it up. And, you've had short stretches of that, but then again, the coach hasn't been able to buy himself time because of the on-field stuff. And you're right. I think with Dannon and Rule, like they're working really well together now. There are things that Matt Rule has the freedom to do that maybe other coaches wouldn't. Like I think of even just adding grass to Memorial Stadium in the future, or adding grass to the practice fields. Like that's a thing Matt Rule's very convicted about. That's something he wants in terms of helping prevent injuries, and that's what he would rather do. I don't know that I could say that Mike Riley or Scott Frost, if they wanted grass fields, would have been able to have that happen. So I think that's all part of it. And again, a lot of that comes because they're aligned. Like Sean Eichhorst and Bo Pelini were not of similar temperaments, right? I think there are a lot of examples of that with the AD and the coach. Like they were very different people. They had different end goals really in mind, or if they had similar goals, they had very different perspectives on how to reach those goals. And it just feels like this is a spot where, at least internally, in terms of momentum within the athletic department, they're in a pretty good spot as far as not just what they want to do, but how they want to get there.
Hey, let's so the recruiting of offensive linemen yesterday, and I would even take another one in this class, but it's a good start, and it's 3 straight classes of offensive linemen that they're starting to stack, and those guys now are starting to play as some of the more veteran guys have moved on. What do you think will be this year's offensive line known for? The 2 tackles or the 3 interior guys?
Well, I think some of that'll maybe depend on where Lutovsky ends up playing. I know he's got a little bit of versatility in where he could go, but I think it'll be the interior. I think Justin Evans could make that center spot or that center transition really seamless from Ben Scott. Rocco Spindler coming in and doing what he can do, I think is huge in terms of the leadership and his pedigree and what he's done. It's not to say that the tackles spots can't be strengths too. I mean, if Elijah Pritchett really has the gains that it looks like he had this spring, and if he takes to the coaching and really kind of matches his potential with on-field performance, then I think that's a possibility that tackle spot could be in great shape as well. But I guess I just look at some of the depth on the interior, and I think probably Lutovsky will end up being in there. You have some other guys too. I mean, we still don't really know what Teddy Prohaska is going to look like coming out of the summer, or Turner Corcoran. So like, there's a lot of, I think, versatility, a lot of depth. Nebraska likes to cross-train those guys. So you see a lot of these older players that have played inside and outside. So, you think of some of the years Nebraska's struggled when they've had injuries on the line, or they've only been able to play like 5 or 6 deep. This feels like a year where you could probably go 10 deep on the line and feel pretty good about it. I haven't mentioned Gunnar Gatula, who I thought played really well in a pinch late last year, and others. So I think in terms of the depth and really the quality, like the line is in as good a spot as it's been in, I don't know, 10 years. It feels like it's in a really good position right now. And you still have that next wave of guys who we haven't really seen yet, Grant Bricks and Preston Tamua and others that are coming in. So I think what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is just a kind of a reminder that the pipeline's actually in pretty great hands. And, you talk about knowing when coaches were cooked. How about going the other way and saying Donovan Raiola and the work that he's done? Like, that's a guy that people have written off for years at Nebraska. And lo and behold, now he's the guy coaching the position that's maybe the strength of the program right now.
Speaking about a guy who I don't know if he was ever fully cooked, but we definitely weren't talking about in a glowing light, is E.J. Barthel. And now he has gone into Chicago, and he has helped get Trey Taylor, and he has helped get a 4-star tackle out of a premier program in that city in Claude Puma. And now you're looking at EJ Barthel as a guy where, you heard the rumors, all of a sudden he might be interviewed for the Texas running back job, to he's a guy that you look at as an ace recruiter. What do you think it says about him and mainly like the culture of that program, the Nebraska program, to see people doubting him and then what the impact he's had on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, he's made a nice comeback as well. Jamal Rule, they got the commit from the running back that they want as well, and we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, he's been a good point of contact for some of his recruiting territories. His story is pretty similar to a lot of Matt Rule assistants, where they've kind of gone out and coached at other places and then have been able to come back and join up with Matt Rule at different places, in this case at Nebraska. I still think, the thing that's probably going to calm a lot of fans is going to be what the running back performance looks like in the fall. I mean, can Emmett Johnson be that guy? I think the guy who can stay healthy, who can run, who can catch passes, the guy that we saw in November in the Dana Holgorsen offense. And then I think, you need to see the emergence of a number two as well. Like, you need to see Quentin Ives step up and be that guy, or Mekhi Nelson step up and be that guy. You probably need to see at least a flash from a guy like Jamarian Parker or Connor Booth, who they liked a lot when they brought in too. And, fair or not, like the running back spot outside of Emmett Johnson is one of the most unproven positions on the team. And they had an opportunity. They had many opportunities to go out and add or pursue a running back in the portal in the offseason. They chose not to do that. And so that tells you that they do feel pretty good about what they have. So how does that evaluation, how does that development sort of play out over the course of the next 6 months? I think will be really fascinating. But yeah, in terms of the recruiting, some of the pieces that they brought in, with Barthel as one of those lead guys, there's no doubt he's personable. He knows his stuff. You talk to him. He's someone who I think can relate to high school players at a pretty high level. And we've certainly seen that with some of the guys you've seen commit to Nebraska.
So with that said, let's bring Ja Rule back in. He dropped the little nugget that Nebraska's running back room looks different, that Isaiah Mosey has moved from wide receiver to running back. How do you think that affects that room?
That's really interesting. Because he was a high school receiver, and that's what he was coached up at. His footwork has been, outstanding. Like, that's one of the things that I noticed even in the spring with him as a freshman, just his ability to get in and out of cuts and things. So, they have a pretty good track record. The staff does with position switches, at Nebraska and at other places. And they'll tell you, like, the reason that they move guys isn't necessarily a reflection of even what the team needs. It's often what is best for these individual players. Like, it's kind of opposite, I think, of what you see at some places. So, like, I look at a move like that and don't say, whoa, they really, that's a reflection of maybe panic in terms of the running back room. I look at that and see a coaching staff that's willing to be flexible and nimble on its feet and say, hey, we see a guy who could play at the next level as a running back, and we're going to put him over here, and maybe it'll work out and maybe it won't, but let's give him some run. Let's see if he can make a move. And oh, by the way, yeah, it does look like nobody's really seized that number two spot. So I think that's, you look at that decision, I think you look at the staff's track record with making those moves, and it takes some trust. I mean, if you're Isaiah Mosey, you were recruited by top programs around the country as a receiver. And if you're talking about being a running back now, I think that takes some trust, and that's another reflection of just some of the health that's going on inside the program.
Evan Bland, you are optimistic, pessimistic, or even keel when it comes to this current state of the defensive line?
I would say I'm optimistic.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that I think it's necessarily going to be better than last year's defensive line, just because of the guys that you lose. And there was so much production that they lost. But, I think just some of the young guys that they have, some of the players that they brought back, can Elijah Judy take that next step? I'm a big Riley Van Poppel fan. Like, I think in terms of the intangibles, physically the gains that he had made in the spring when we chatted with him. That's a guy I think can be a leader and can be kind of the next Ty Robinson in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's also a group of guys that with players who have never been asked to log major snaps as the guys. So, I mean, absolutely, there's a level of prove it that goes into that thing. And like we've talked about, Matt, like if you talk about how this season could go sideways and not the way that you expect, I think it would start with Nebraska not being able to stop the run because you've got a fresh group of guys. But, that all being said, I mean, they have guys that were highly touted, guys that, Williams Nwaneri is somebody else who's really fascinating. A number of other guys that, like, I could also see it coming together to where you look back in November and say, what was everybody worried about? Like, there was, this group's doing really well. And so, yeah, I would say I'm optimistic, but I guess at the same time acknowledging that this is one of the bigger question marks on the team, just in terms of proven production.
Absolutely. A quick question here, and we'll let you go. Because you're the countdown, which I love, which all you guys get together.
Mm-hmm.
You're down to 36 from 50, and Teddy Prohaska is 36. Is Nwaneri in the top 35?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right.
And I know that Lenhart will be in there as well. I appreciate it as always, Evan. Thank you very much. Have a great 4th of July.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Nwaneri, the video was out yesterday. Most of you have seen it. Was working out with Michael Rose-Ivy, who, by the way, is in fantastic shape. Man, he's in a good place in his life. So he's back in Kansas City. I love that the network is helping Nebraska football, because I thought the network of former players were working against Nebraska football because of personal grievances against Scott. And so they weren't helping either on the recruiting trail or with the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's much different. And MRI is one of those guys, and he's a good dude. His life is in a good spot, and he's coaching football. He's back in his hometown. And Nwaneri was working out with him, which, the knock on Nwaneri at Mizzou is that he liked the limelight. He just didn't like to go to turn the light on. And so he's doing work outside of the teamwork, which is encouraging to me. I will be very curious on where he is on that 35. Like, is he going to be a 28 guy, or is he inside of, top 25?
He's, in my opinion, if I were making the Matt McMaster most important Huskers coming into this 2025 season, I would put him top 10. I would put him top 10, most important, because they've lost 24.5 sacks, and you don't really know who is going to be that stud edge rusher who's going to be disrupting the passer. And if you were to pick, it would be the former 5-star recruit who just transferred from Missouri. So I think that
he's going to get on the field with the guy in front of him.
We'll see. We'll have to see.
I think they want Kim, and I'm not disagreeing.
No,
I think Nwaneri is important moving forward.
Yeah,
but I think if they could get Lenhart 50 plus snaps a game at that position, that'd be good sign.
Be big too. I agree.
All right, we'll come back. We'll put a wrap on this, and then we got the crossover.
Our hyped. Poll right now is 74 to 26.
I'm open. My mind is open.
You are hyped,
but if I invite you to a tailgate, I know that I have to ask something in particular.
You have to specify what sandwich.
Yes.
Matt, can you bring turkey sandwiches?
All right, we'll try and get to Andrew and Randy here if you're still on hold. We'll do that when we come back to wrap up a Tuesday edition on the 1st of July. To all of our Canucks out there on 1620 The Zone. All right. Randy has been so kind to hold. I hope he's still there. Good morning, Randy.
Randy.
Randy is not there.
Sorry, Randy.
All right. This is Andrew. Is Andrew there? Oh well, I mean they were kind enough to hold on through our chat with Evan.
Andrew was triggered by your cooking.
Andrew's always triggered.
Save it for the crossover.
Even when I compliment Creighton basketball, he gets triggered by me. And I've been complimenting Creighton basketball. They got a really good team this year. I got to put my hat back on.
The people are coming closer to Matt here. No is 70%, yes is 30. So this crossover could get very, very heated.
I don't know. Are we for sure? Do we for sure know that Connor Happer is going to say no to Oreo being a sandwich?
I have a feeling he might be on your side. I can't speak for him, but I have a
might
feeling.
Be outnumbered.
No, Josh is on my
Josh
side.
Yeah.
Oh, you're for you know that for sure?
I just asked the question. If I ask you to come to a tailgate and I say you're in charge of sandwiches and you show up with Oreo cookies, what's the response?
The response would be inadequate.
Who invited the diabetic?
But at the same time, I would argue that there are some sandwiches that are more mainstream than other sandwiches. Okay. And in that certain setting, it would be turkey sandwiches. Yes.
Could I go to your favorite sandwich shop and get Oreo cookies?
But that's a different type of sandwich. It's a different. I'm not saying that an Oreo cookie and a turkey sandwich are the same thing. What have I been saying? Same corporation, different division. They are cousins. Okay, they are not brother and sister or sister or brother.
This
they
is
are
not
cousins.
SEC talk, by the way.
They are around each other. A rectangle.
If I say
is not a square, but a square is a rectangle.
I'm listening. If I say I'm giving up sandwiches for Lent,
you can't eat Oreos.
I can't eat Oreos.
Can't eat Oreos. That's a sandwich.
Oh, we need to consult some clergy on this because that's a great question.
I think you would have to eliminate. I think you would have to eliminate Oreos.
Now, if you give up sweets, you could keep eating sandwiches.
No, well, see, Oreo is a
you
sweet.
Still have a
it's
turkey
sweet
sandwich. You can't eat Oreos.
Look, I'm playing into your argument. You haven't had a response for me because my argument is, what is a sandwich? You have one piece of bread and another piece of bread, and you put things on one piece of bread, and then you close it. What's the difference between an Oreo? You have one wafer and you have another wafer. You put the cream on top, and then you close it. It's a sandwich.
Could you have Oreos for a whole meal?
Yes, you can. I've done it.
That's true. When you're a grown up,
without a doubt.
Okay.
I've housed a whole sleeve of Oreos and called it a night. That's why I'm in such great shape. That's why I'm running Boston Marathon.
Same. You should come with me to my next doctor appointment. Now, what did we learn? I'm sorry.
I'm going to go back to my doctor, and he's going to be like, what happened?
Have you ever tried this trick, like to go to your favorite place, Subway?
Subway's got a foot-long cookie now. All right.
Oh,
Subway
this is
makes
true.
pizza.
Yeah, but that's not a sandwich.
It's just a cookie.
There's no.
But a sandwich shop they give away cookies all the time.
But they don't consider them sandwiches because
They
the
are
cookies they give away. They don't give away
On the
Oreos.
packaging of Oreo, it says cookie sandwich.
Yeah, but so Oreo is the only one. Like not all cookies are sandwiches.
Nutter butters are cookie sandwiches. They're the same thing. There's two wafers. They just have peanut butter in the middle of it. A sandwich is a construct. All right, it's a whizzy, it's a woozy, it's fairy dust. All right,
Figment of your imagination.
Yes, it is.
State of mind.
Because this hasn't
A
come up.
philosophy.
This hasn't come up yet this summer. Hot dog,
I brought it up.
Not a sandwich.
Yeah.
A hot dog is a hot dog.
but it is a construct because you got two pieces of
Bread.
No, it's
Bread.
one piece of bread.
Bread, and
it's
then
one,
there's
it's
a
one
little-
piece of bread.
there's something
it's
in
one
the
piece
middle
of
of
bread.
them.
It's one piece of bread.
No,
It is
no.
no.
Have you seen some of the?
Have you seen
Have
the
you
hinge
seen the
of a hot
buns that you
dog?
buy now? Like you try and open them and they split in half. So then you got two.
God,
so then you
I
got
couldn't
a
agree more
top
with
and a
that.
bottom, and then you got a thing. Oh, hot dog all of a sudden is a sandwich.
No, it's not. It
in
is
Matt's
not
world.
a sandwich. No, it's not. A bun is one piece of bread. The hinge on the bottom of the hot dog.
See, this is why
makes
July is
sure
great.
that
You
is
don't get
not
this
a
in October.
sandwich. We totally could get this in October. This
Well, no,
totally
but there's
could
too much
happen.
ball to talk in October.
No,
we don't have time for
no.
cookies.
We were talking
No time
ball,
for
and it led
sandwiches.
to this.
Chris says Isaiah Mosey. He goes, at least he isn't 5'8", 165 pounds. I changed my answer on when Frost was cooked. I changed my answer to the first time he lined up Wandale in the backfield and ran him up the middle.
I like the transition there. Look, that was a great play from you. You knew you were losing the battle. You knew you were losing the argument. What did you do? You went to
I'm not
Twitter and
losing
you
the
read
battle.
and you
I
read
just
about
saw it as he
football.
was getting it back on topic.
Yeah, that's
This is
what-
the topic. We are in the topic, baby.
No, I get your reasoning, but I asked the question: if we're having a potluck.
Okay, we're having a potluck.
The
We're having
NRG potluck downstairs.
We're having a potluck
but
at
it's
NRG.
understood that if we are having a breakfast, or not a breakfast, a picnic, and
We
you
should
go,
have
"Hey,
upstairs
bring
way
the
on this."
sandwiches. Yes, I'm going to be bringing bread and turkey and lettuce and tomato. Those are my sandwiches. That's understood. That does not.
Then why, if
that does
Oreo
not
is a
negate,
sandwich,
though.
why wouldn't you just bring Oreos and leave the bread
I
and
would,
the meat?
I
at
would
home?
also bring Oreos and be like, I didn't know what you meant. I didn't know what you mean. You said sandwiches. You weren't very specific. So I brought
No.
some turkey sandwiches.
Hey,
and
you know
I
what
brought
you
some
just
Oreo
did there?
sandwiches.
You did Nebraska football recruiting recovery in the second part of June. Nicely done there.
Thank you.
That's how we'll wrap the show this morning.
Wow.
There was a misunderstanding. You weren't specific enough. So I brought Oreos. I actually brought the white Oreos because those are the best Oreos.
Happy birthday, Carl Lewis turned 64 today. You know what? You can either watch his track exploits or his national anthem, or Charlie Steiner doing the Sports Center story on Carl Lewis singing the anthem.
Francis Scott off key.
You know what? Charlie Steiner used to be really funny. When he was at Sports Center, remember when he did the 2K?
Sports Center's good. Follow me to freedom.
Yeah. And then when he did Sports Center and he talked about Carl Lewis's anthem, and then he became crotchety once he went straight to the Dodgers. All right. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's going to be warm out there. Don't get cooked. Don't be like that warm day in Champaign in 2021.
Don't lose to Michigan State on the road today, guys. Don't punt the ball the wrong way.
Damn Australian punters. Oh, and
hey,
look,
Archie, come on, man. We're a fan of Archie.
it's a good thing that Nebraska doesn't play in East Lansing this year.
We like Willie.
All right, crossover on the sandwich is coming up next. Thanks to Jimmy, to Matt, Gary, and all of you for joining us on the first day of July. If you see a Canadian, hug him, high five him.
And say sorry about Mitch Marner.
And that 21-12 is just a beautiful masterpiece.
Talk to you tomorrow at 6.